minutes to order. That is assuming, are we up and recording and all those important things, Secretary Perry? All right, excellent. Thanks, you guys. Welcome everyone. Welcome those who may be watching us the live stream as well. And just a reminder to the board, we are being live streamed and this meeting will be archived as we are here today. We also welcome our team here to our headquarters and anyone else who may be joining us from media to other officials and dignitaries. It is kind of a gray morning here in Nashville, Tennessee, but the holiday spirit is alive and well here at One Bridgestone, our TBR office. Let me begin by officially welcoming in person our student regent, Caden Keltgen. Welcome. We met you at our committee chairs meeting on Zoom, but it's nice to be in the same room with you.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely nice to see everyone's smiling faces and all of the other people as well. It's very nice to be here and hopefully be able to provide some insight from a student perspective.
That's great. Thank you. And Caden, remind us, Walter State, nursing student, speech is one of your many fortes. And help me with that debate. What else are we doing at Walter State?
Oh yeah, lots of hats. I'm a third out of 4 semesters in nursing school, so graduate in May with an RN. I've been at the community college of Walter State for 2.5 years, and by the time I graduate, it'll be 3. I am a collegiate debater who's essentially functioning as an assistant coach, and I also did a couple other clubs. I president for a couple of years, that kind of thing. So yeah, lots of community outreach and trying to find a group for people to meet on campus. So
excellent. So well, welcome again. We're very glad you're here. And don't hesitate to speak up. So thank you. Secretary Perry, let's make this official. We'll get started by calling the roll. We have had a couple of hiccups this morning. Regent Spurgeon was on his way here, but obviously the weather it's impeded our progress somewhat, so he is on with us. Regent Burdine is in Kingsport this morning, but with us, and Regent Powers is on her way. Thank you, Mariah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For our board members in the room, when I call your name, you can simply respond here or present. For our board members on virtually, if you could kindly answer those 2 questions for us. First, can you simultaneously hear and speak with others participating in the meeting? And second, are you alone in the room? If the answer to both questions is yes, you can simply say yes to both. Anyone who is not alone should identify any other people present in the room with the Regent. Governor Lee. Regent Burdine.
Yes to both questions.
Regent DeWitt.
Present.
Regent Gentile.
Present.
Regent George.
Here.
Regent Harrell.
Here.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Here.
Regent Hooper. Regent Kastner.
Here.
Regent Keltgen.
here.
Regent Powers. Madam Chair Reynolds.
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Here.
Regent Richardson.
Here.
Regent Roberts.
Here.
Regent Spurgeon.
Yes to both questions.
Regent Stevenson.
Here.
Regent Varlin. Here. And Regent White.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We have 2 items in our books to begin with today, as usual, our minutes from both our quarterly board meeting in Dyersburg, September 20, and our special called meeting on November 12. Does anyone have any changes or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, we can approve these by unanimous consent, given their non-controversial and routine nature. But if anyone objects, we will have a roll call. Hearing no objection, the minutes of September 20 and November 12 are adopted. Chancellor, you have an interim action report for us.
Yes, good morning and Merry Christmas to everyone. The interim action report was included in the materials made available to all board members prior to our meeting today. This report constitutes a record of business transacted by the Office of the Chancellor since the previous quarterly meeting of the board. Madam Chair, pending any questions, I recommend the board's approval of the report of interim action.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions or comments on the interim action report? Once again, this is a non-controversial and routine item, and I would once again propose we approve this by unanimous consent. Any objection? Hearing none, the Chancellor's interim action report is approved by unanimous consent. Regent Burdine,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have the report of the Audit Committee, please, sir?
I do. Thank you. The Audit Committee met in regular session on November 12th, 2024 to review and recommend approval of the following items: external miscellaneous reviews, Comptroller's Office audits, and internal audit reports. System-wide internal audit updates, review of annual audits and expenses for the Chancellor and Presidents for fiscal year 2024, review of salaries and budgets for internal auditors, fiscal year 2025 internal audit plan revisions, internal audit charters for Columbia State Community College and Southwest Tennessee Community College, and review of salaries and staffing for the Office of System-Wide Internal Audit. Madam Chair, this concludes my report for the 12 November 2024 Audit Committee meeting. As Committee Chair, I move the Board approve the report of the meeting of the Audit Committee as presented.
We have a motion. Thank you. We have a second from Regent DeWitt. Any further comments or discussion from the Audit Committee? Hearing none, this does require a roll call vote. So, Mariah, I'm coming back to you.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent DeWitt.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Harrell.
Aye.
Regent Kastner.
Aye.
Regent Kelton.
Aye.
Madam Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Roberts.
Aye.
Regent Spurgeon.
Aye.
Regent Stevenson.
Aye.
Regent Barlin. And Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And we'll note as well, welcome to Regent Hooper, who has now joined us. Regent Burdine,
Yes, ma'am.
how are you? You want to share with the group this morning what's happened up your way?
Well, it's been a interesting morning. I was waking up to go catch a plane to come see you guys. And as you all know, I sleep on my back deck a lot. And I was in a recliner like I usually am. And I hear a rustling behind me. And I thought it was probably another cat. But cats don't carry flashlights. So I turn around and look, and there's a man standing there going through my liquor cabinet. And so I scared the crap out of him when I jumped up and screamed at him, and he ran. I followed, and I was barefooted. He jumped on an electric bike, but he was screwed because the electric bike didn't work. So I was able to catch up with him, and he said, "I've got a knife. I'm gonna pull it on you." I said, "Well, come on." And I finally caught up to him, and he turned and started going the other direction, which was toward my house, and I cussed at him a lot and called him some vulgar names, and then shoved him in the ditch and left him there and went over and knocked on my neighbor's house to get him to call the police because I left my phone at the house. And so things escalated from a little while there, but the dispatch said, kept saying not to hurt the guy, don't let it escalate. I said, well, that's up to him. So eventually the police showed up, and he had a bottle of my liquor in his backpack, and I got that back. And, there's more to it than that, but it just took a long time. It was, by the time I got done, it was almost 5:45. And ironically, they didn't arrest him. They charged him with theft, and I'm trying to find out why they didn't arrest him. I called the city manager. They're going to find out. But he got back on it. He finally got his bike going, and I saw him go past my house, so I followed him. So I'm going to take care of business there, but he went on about his way. I don't know where he is now. A good way to start the day. But my proudest moment was I'm standing there with 4 police officers and my neighbor, and I hear one of the police officers say, dude, you messed with the wrong effing man. I felt like beating my chest right then.
Once a Marine,
So-
always a Marine.
Good way to start the day right there, Shane.
I don't know how you didn't shoot him.
I've expected you to shoot him.
Well, my wife doesn't like having guns around the house, so I use baseball bats. And
Hey, Miles,
so I get, yes, sir.
you don't sleep naked, do you?
What?
You don't sleep
Oh, no.
naked, do you?
No, no. It's a little too nippy out there for
We're
that.
shutting this conversation down. Okay. The important
I don't-
thing is Miles is safe and well, and Denise is okay. Did she
Yes,
sleep
it
through
scared
most of-
her because I was hoping she slept through it, but she didn't. And again, I didn't have my phone, so by the time I got back to the house, she was, she's in a walker because she just had her hip replaced. She's out there wondering where I am, but I reassured her.
Very good. All right. Well, that'll get your heart racing at 5:45 in the morning. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Take care,
And it
friend.
had to be
Uh,
rainy and cold too.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Do you have your shoes on now?
I do now. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So, well, we miss you. Thank you for hopping on.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I'm not there.
That's quite all right. Thank you. Regent Spurgeon, thank you for hopping on as well, although I don't think you have as interesting of a story to tell this morning.
No, it is not even close. There's just a little fog in Nashville, the reason I can't get there. I don't sleep on my back patio. I sleep inside the house.
Okay. We're glad you're here.
Yeah,
We miss-
I just texted Miles what I thought of him. It may have included some other words too, but it was very highly complimentary.
Moving right along.
Hey, Kyle, Kyle, the bottle of bourbon he took was Cooper's, $100 bottle of bourbon, but I got it back.
Good. Priorities are correct.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to you both. We're just glad you're here. If not in person, just take good care. Chancellor,
Thank you.
I am surprised you do not have that red jacket on, but it may be at the dry cleaners from the weekend you had.
Go dogs.
Yeah,
Go dogs. Yeah, no, I'm celebrating a blue Christmas this
There
year.
you go.
I'm
There
doing
you
Blue
go.
Christmas.
Oh, it is time for your report, and I know you've got some interesting things on the agenda for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Madam Vice Chair. As all of you are aware, for the past several years, TBR has been guided by our strategic plan, whose central mission, very simple to state, student success and workforce development. The plan is connected to the statewide 2015-25 THEC Master Plan that has the Drive to 55 educational attainment goal as its central framework. As this era is coming to an end, TBR is preparing to revisit its strategic plan, just as THEC undergoes revisions to their master plan. I'd like at this time to call on Executive Vice Chancellor Russ Deaton to provide some background and an overview of what lies ahead for TBR as we revisit our strategic plan. Dr. Deaton, if I could turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chancellor Tidings, Vice Chair Reynolds, members of the board. It's a little hard to concentrate actually after the way we entered into today's meeting with those stories, but I'm going to try to get back on track and stay focused on what I have to talk about today. As the Chancellor said, oops, wrong way. It is about that time to revisit the TBR strategic plan. Many of you will remember when we first began this exercise back pre-COVID and got interrupted for a while, and then concluded that in 2021 with the current plan as it exists now. A little bit of background's in order too, because the antecedents to that plan are important as we think about the next version. That existing plan that is before you right now, you have a hard copy in front of you of the current plan, was first adopted in 2015, revised a bit in 2017, and then existing in its current form after this board approved its current version in 2021. As Dr. Tidings said, its central animating principle is student success and workforce development, but it is really trying to embody the state's statewide attainment goal for the past decade or so, Drive to 55, the idea of getting 55% of adult Tennesseans with a post-secondary credential defined as anything TCAT, associates, and bachelors. Currently, we're around 49% on that metric across the state. We began this journey as a state back in 2015 at around 36% or so. That current plan was developed very broadly. There were members of this body who were on the steering committee. We had numerous presidents and chief academic officers and CFOs and students and partners outside TBR from workforce. We engaged with Tennessee Achieves and the Ayers Foundation. We engaged with the Tennessee Chamber and State Workforce Board, the LGIs, UT. We had voices outside Tennessee come and give us a reality check on the things we were thinking about. We had lots of broad input from those internal and external voices, and the result of all that is what you see here. And let me note, it is not, as you can see, a document that is to be read and earmarked over 30 or 40 pages. It is instead an interactive infographic that largely exists on our website. You can go now and look at the central strategic plan and all of its tenets in a way that you can interact with. Nothing to read and thumb through. It's designed to be experienced. It's also designed to be very flexible. Each year we bring before you revisions to that plan that update the activities that TBR is engaged in, that give life to that plan. And it's also supported by a dashboard that provides some very high-level metrics about how TBR is doing in fulfillment of that plan. Its three tenets, as you see on that first page of the handout, are three sort of core philosophical precepts. The idea of being open access, focus on completion, and the community and workforce development impact that we have. Those three are the central animating tenets of the strategic plan. If that is the what that we do, it's also supported by four ideas about how we go about our business. And you see those on the sheet there too, about strengthening collaboration with partners across Tennessee and the U.S., about harnessing the power of innovation, which TBR and Tennessee are known for, about building up capacity across TBR and the colleges, and about fulfilling equity, which is a reflection back of that open access point, which is any student that comes to us from any walk of life, with any preparation challenge, any life circumstance challenge, no matter their background, TBR is charged with trying to meet them where they are and try to get them where they need to be. And in that sense, fulfilling equity is that fourth central tenet. All of that then sets up us to look ahead to what comes next. And so over the course of the next year, we will begin to engage a similarly broad group of folks, internal and external to TBR, to reflect on where TBR has been and where it ought to go as we look ahead for the next decade or so. There is no predetermined path that this needs to take. It may well result in us mostly reaffirming where we are. This body may decide to go in a different direction. All options are kind of on the table at this point. We will, of course, bring you updates at each subsequent board meeting, and the intent at this point is to try to get done and bring you back a final product sometime in late 2025. Also, this will serve as a guide as our colleges begin to develop their own strategic plans, drawing inspiration hopefully from what TBR puts forth. All of this, again, connected to where THEC is going to go over the next year with its own statewide strategic plan. As last time as well, the perspectives that will be brought to bear will be numerous. We will again include similar types of voices from this board, from those here in the audience, from partners around the higher education and other spaces, K-12, labor, et cetera, from around the state and across the U.S. That is the intent, and we look forward to that process. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this point. Obviously, this is sort of a kickoff and a framing, but we look forward to what the next several months portend for TBR.
Questions, comments?
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Russ.
Also, one of the central elements of the current TBR strategic plan is enhancing institutional and operational capacity. An important way that we have accomplished this is by providing ways to enhance leadership skills for our faculty and staff across TBR. By strengthening leadership capacity, we can help identify and develop the next generation of TBR college leaders. Over the past several months, the Policy and Strategy Division has been revamping TBR's approach to leadership development, and I'm now going to call on Executive Vice Chancellor Russ Deaton and Assistant Vice Chancellor Deanna Morris-Stacy to provide further details about this new plan that I am really excited about the work that they've been doing and looking forward to what this is going to do for our system. So Deanna, if you please join Russ at the
I've
podium.
been trying to get her up here. She refused yet. Thank you, Dr. Titus. We're excited about this too. And I will simply set up Deanna with two things. First is Deanna is a familiar face to many of you. She's been on the TBR staff for a good long while in a new role. As you can see, she's now the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Programs and Leadership. And one of her main charges these past few months as she's settled into that role is exactly this, is reconstructing, rebuilding, enhancing the way TBR thinks about its leadership development capacity. You'll see that in a couple ways that she'll get into, but one of which honors a former member of this body, and also all this work builds on a very wonderful and strong foundation of TBR's leadership development over the years from prior staff and prior administrations. So with that, Deanna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, Chancellor, Vice Chair Reynolds, and Regents. Before I provide updates on the new leadership development initiatives, I want to take a moment and introduce you to a remarkable woman and a former Regent, Maxine Smith. While my introduction won't truly capture the depth of her extraordinary life, it's important to share a glimpse of the woman whose legacy continues to inspire and to guide the work that we do today. Maxine was appointed to the Tennessee Board of Regents in 1994 by then Governor Ned McWhorter. She sat where you sit today and served with distinction for 12 years until 2006. But long before her service to this board, Maxine had already lived a life defined by remarkable accomplishments and fearless advocacy. She was born on October 31st, 1929 in Memphis, Tennessee, and she spent her life deeply rooted in that community. When she passed away in 2013, she was still living on the same street where she had played as a child. Her brilliance was evident early on. She graduated at the age of 15 from Booker T. Washington High School in Memphis, Tennessee. She went on to earn her bachelor's degree from Spelman in biology and her master's degree in French from Middlebury College. She began her teaching career at Prairie View A&M in Texas and continued on to Florida A&M in Tallahassee. In 1955, she returned home to Memphis and married Dr. Vasco Smith, a prominent dentist in the area. In 1957, Maxine applied to Memphis State University to pursue graduate studies, but was denied admission because of her race. Instead of discouraging her, this only deepened her resolve and fueled a career devoted in expanding educational opportunities for all. She was a warrior in every sense of the word. Her efforts for civil rights landed her in jail multiple times, but her resolve never wavered. She was on the front lines of pivotal moments in history, including serving on the coordinating committee for the 1968 Memphis sanitation workers strike, the same event that brought Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Memphis before his assassination. Her leadership expanded beyond civil rights to education, where she served on the Memphis School Board for over 2 decades. Her extraordinary contributions earned her over 160 awards, including the Freedom Award from the National Civil Rights Museum in 2003. Her unwavering dedication to civil rights and education left a mark on Memphis, the state of Tennessee, and beyond. My introduction to Maxine came in the summer of 2006, just as I was beginning my career at the Tennessee Board of Regents. One of my first major projects was coordinating the closing dinner for the 2006 class of Maxine Smith Fellows. That experience not only gave me my first exposure to the Fellows program, but more importantly, it was my first personal encounter with Maxine. The Maxine Smith Fellows program, originally launched as a TBR System Office initiative, was renamed in 2002 to honor Maxine and her remarkable contributions. Maxine's commitment to the program was evident. She was a regular presence, attending nearly every meeting. She offered invaluable guidance and shared her personal stories of perseverance and leadership. On trips to Memphis, Maxine would personally guide the fellows through the National Civil Rights Museum, bringing history to life with firsthand accounts of the events that shaped the civil rights movement. Her stories detailing where she was and what she was doing during pivotal moments made those exhibits deeply personal and unforgettable. On a few trips to Memphis, I was able to spend extra time with Maxine, accompanying her to some of her favorite places around town. Wherever she went, she was welcomed with celebrity-like status, and it was a reminder to me of how deeply respected she was, not only for her personal achievements, but for the grace and the presence that she carried throughout her everyday life. I also had the opportunity to visit her home on several occasions, and her home was an extension of her welcoming spirit. It was a space that reflected her life's journey, filled with reminders of her extraordinary accomplishments. At the time, I didn't fully grasp the significance of those moments, but now, nearly 20 years later, the times visiting with her and her husband Vasco remain just treasured experiences. For Maxine, the Fellows Program was a key part of her life's work. Her legacy continues through those of us who were fortunate enough to know her, but most importantly, through the 153 individuals who participated in the Maxine Smith Fellows Program from 2003 to 2021. As a testament of that impact, 6 of those fellows are current sitting presidents within our college system, and others have gone on to serve in senior leadership roles within higher education throughout Tennessee and beyond. Today, I've invited one of those former fellows to share a few remarks with you. Dr. Yolanda Jones is president of TCAT Northwest and a member of the class of 2002-2003.
Well, good morning. When I look at that picture, you may not recognize me, but I had on a brown jacket. And today I stand before you in a little larger brown jacket. But that is me 20 plus years ago. If one word could describe my experience, not only with the fellowship, but with Maxine, it would be transformational. The program itself embodied characteristics that one would want to emulate. It was a character builder. It made you understand how strong you could be, and it also inspired you as well. It gave you leadership abilities and how to be courageous, but yet inspiring. But best of all, it gave you purpose. We were taught how to create a vision and become change makers. So the program itself embodied not only empowerment and motivation, but it taught us how to seek our very own place. So here I am, 20 years later. I stand before you in my brown coat so you could see this was one of the best examples of what a true leadership program can mold and develop. And for that, I will forever be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I scan the room, I believe there are 4 former fellows. You mind standing if you're a former fellow? 1, 2, 3. Patrick Waiter, there's 5 in the room. Thank you. As we continue to honor Maxine's contributions, I'm excited to introduce the next chapter of her enduring legacy, the Maxine Smith Leadership Series. This series builds upon the foundation of the Fellows Program, offering expanded leadership opportunities across the college system of Tennessee. It includes 3 fellowships that will be developed and rolled out in stages over the next year. Those are the Chancellor's Fellowship, Emerging Leaders Fellowship, and Faculty Innovation Fellowship. The Chancellor's Fellowship is the cornerstone initiative in this leadership series. It's designed to enhance the leadership skills among senior administrators across the college system and to prepare them for executive roles in higher education. This program represents a natural evolution of the Maxine Smith Fellows Program, continuing its mission to foster excellence and innovation in leadership. This fellowship is a cohort-based program. We will issue a call for nominations to presidents in January and plan to have selections made by April. The program will officially begin in June with a kickoff orientation meeting that will coincide with our June board meeting. So I look forward to introducing the group to you at that time. The group will then convene for sessions in the 2025-2026 fall and spring year. In closing, I want to express my deep gratitude for the honor and the opportunity to carry forward Maxine's remarkable legacy through these initiatives. And I really look forward to sharing updates on the Chancellor's Fellowship as well as the other programs within this series in future meetings. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Deanna? Deanna.
Oh, this one.
I just want to say how beautiful your words were to honor Maxine, and it makes me so jealous that I never got to meet her, but I'm so grateful that you did and had that wonderful experience. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank Deanna for the work that she has done on this to embrace and then expand the work that we've been doing. And she has really worked hard to, I think, put together an incredible program. So I look forward to how this is going to play out over the next several years. Thank you for all of your efforts. I have one more update that I'd like to give to you this morning, and the best way for me to do that is to call on Dick Tracy, because I want him to talk to you about our capital outlay projects with our TCATs, our groundbreakings, and where we are at the moment, other than to throw in we are on time and under budget.
That's correct, Chancellor. So our 29 projects, and that out of the $1 billion equaled a little over $884 million. And those projects, I think there may be one groundbreaking left, I'm not sure, but we've been scheduling those as quick as we can. I hope they don't do any more in the wintertime. Obviously, they're not construction people. So.
We did get a little cold last week, but other than that.
But all of those projects, and on top of those, we also had the additional projects. There's 21 projects that were previously funded. That was over $500 million, and those projects are all on schedule and in budget. On top of that, we have another 11 projects at the TCATs that are maintenance projects. It's just under $10 million. We have another 34 projects at the community colleges. It's about $274 million. We're overseeing 6 LGI projects, MTSU, TTU, and ETSU, and that's about $200 million. And we also have about 39 projects at TSU that equal just over $330 million. So right now we've got about 90 projects over $2.1 billion, and right now we're keeping them all on time and in budget. We also have quite a few acquisitions and leases that we're doing, and some of those are tied to these projects. So, these things will be wrapping up pretty soon, and we'll be looking for more work. But that's a kind of a brief update. If you want any more information, I can get Jeff to crank out another spreadsheet for you.
Thank you, Dick. Thanks for the update. As y'all can tell, facilities is not busy at all. They don't work hard or do much. They just have a good time back there. We are very thankful we've got the team that we do in place, because they have kept those trains running on time. I'd also like to just quickly mention that we do have one new president with us, Dr. Jaqueen Rainey. If you would just stand and let everybody recognize you as your first president. Dr. Rainey hit the ground running, and so I feel like she's been there longer than she has, because she has not missed a beat, and we are so fortunate to have you in this job. Thank you.
Well, that's a good report on many fronts. Thank you very much. And just another word about Maxine Smith and Deanna. I did not know Maxine well. I did have a chance to get to know her a little bit in my previous life working for Senator Frist. She was a force of nature. And the work that Deanna has done, as Chancellor said, in reimagining this very important program for us is so critical. Yolanda used the word transformational. We will continue to be transformational in this Maxine Smith Leadership Series. And Deanna, I said this to you the day you and Russ were nice to brief me on the direction you were headed. There are some people who come to work and they exude a quiet competence. They're not looking for an attaboy or an attagirl. They're not looking for a pat on the back. They just do their job and do it well. And you personify that individual. Thank you so much. And Yolanda, I know that's the same brown suit. We appreciate you. Thank you for your words this morning. We do not have any unfinished business to come before us this morning, but we do have before us some new business in the form of our consent agenda, which outlines 7 policies, revisions, and 1 or more new policies. We went over these at our committee chairs meeting on November 12. You've obviously had a chance to review these, but is there any question or further comment or consideration on these before I suggest a vote? Oh, sorry, Jeremy.
For item number 7,
Yes.
I just feel like I should disclose that professionally our organization advocates for this type of policy. We were not engaged in this conversation, does not benefit us personally or me personally at all. But I just wanted to disclose that before we vote.
Thank you. And we talked about you that day. In fact, Regent Powers made the comment how near and dear this policy would be to you. So thank you. And again, thanks for your leadership in this field. Any other questions or comments from the board? Then we do need a motion to approve the consent agenda of these 7 policies. And please tell me I don't have to read all of these numbers and policies.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Regent
Second.
White. And a second from, who was that, Ross? Oh, Shane. Thank you, Regent Hooper. Any discussion? Hearing none, we do need a roll call vote. Mariah?
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent DeWitt. Aye. Regent George,
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent Harrell,
Aye.
Regent Hooper,
Aye.
Regent Kastner,
Aye.
Regent Keltgen,
Aye.
Madam Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Commissioner Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Roberts,
Aye.
Regent Spurgeon. I'm sorry, do you mind to repeat that?
Aye.
Thank you. Regent Stevenson,
Aye.
Regent Varlin, Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all very much. We have some informational reports that I think will be of great interest to the board today, and hopefully we'll have a little dialogue around some of these. Regent Russ Deaton is coming back up to speak to us, our Executive Vice Chancellor, followed by Vice Chancellor Heidi Lemming. And I'm just going to let you guys flow from one to the other for this part of the discussion.
Sounds great.
Thank
Well, I will
you.
bring to you some new information about TCATs, who've undergone some remarkable transformations the past several years, particularly the past decade, and want to bring you some overarching information about where they stand currently. First is focusing on this fall. This fall, we have seen a tremendous increase in TCAT enrollment across the sector. Our registrations are up about 20% year over year. The bulk of that is in the dual enrollment space, but we've also seen increases in new students, up about 6% compared to fall 23. The best metric, though, really to look at enrollment is to look back a year at a fully completed academic year, and that's what's on the screen before you now. So this shows you the total headcount enrollment across the TCAT sector in 2023-2024. And the TCATs as a group served almost 45,000 Tennesseans over that year. A remarkable number that has increased quite a bit over the last 4 years. You see the pre-COVID number in 2019 hovering at around 30,000, now up around 45,000. The bulk of that is in what the TCATs would call preparatory students, the 4-credit part of the enterprise, as distinct from what's in blue, the non-credit, largely speaking, special industry and supplemental. But again, tremendous growth overall, mostly in that preparatory student, mostly in the dual enrollment space. If you then break that down a little bit further, this shows that remarkable change, particularly in dual enrollment students, but really across the board. First, let's start at the top and work our way down. What's in red is that traditional adult, high school graduate, regular student, non-dual enrollment, let's just say, over the last 4 years, increasing from about 15,000 up to about 17,000 over that time. That in of itself is around a 12% or so increase. That number is remarkable enough But then you look at that dark blue line. That is the dual enrollment number isolated. Beginning the time period in 2019 at around 7,000, now at around 18,000, more than double over those 4 years. That's a remarkable number. Has a lot of reasons for that. Not only changes in state policy that have made it easier for students to enroll in dual enrollment, greater demand from K-12 partners, honestly just a better understanding about what it means to go to a TCAT for a high school student among the college advisor universe, whether they be our own advisors at our colleges, partner organizations who really have a keener sense now of what it means to go to a TCAT. You've seen a big change in dual enrollment over this time period, a remarkable number over the past just 4 years alone. The programs those students enroll in, though, differ quite a bit based on dual enrollment versus the non-dual enrollment. So let's break these down one by one. Let's start on the right-hand side and look at the preparatory students, not the dual enrollment students, in the programs that they're engaged in, the top 10. Most of these will be familiar and intuitive to you. Nursing, of course, is the #1 most subscribed program, followed by the usual array of TCAT programs you see across welding, CIT, HVAC, refrigeration, etc. You see truck driving on this list, which would not have been the case a few years ago before the increased capacity that our colleges have done to increase that number. That stands in contrast what's on the left-hand side in the blue. That is the top 10 in most enrolled programs among the dual enrollment population. So again, taking those 18,000 students and looking at their top programs. You see some similarities, but you see a different rank order. Welding is the most subscribed program, followed by farming operations technology, and on down the line. You don't see, for instance, truck driving in that list. So you see different programmatic differences just based on the availability of those programs across student demographics and their eligibility for them. That then, though, leads into one of the interesting observations about TCATs the last 10 years or so. This is going to go back to the beginning of Tennessee Promise. If you look at the number of students who emerge into higher education on Tennessee Promise into the TCATs, the first several years of Promise, that number was around 2,000 per year. And that's what's on the left-hand side. And if you look at that as a percentage of all Tennessee Promise students, that's what's on the right-hand bar graph. So again, in 2015-16, those 2,000 students were around 13% or so of all Tennessee Promise students across the state. The last few years, though, that number has increased dramatically. And again, smaller base, but you've seen that 2,000 number grow to over 3,300 students in Tennessee Promise going to TCATs. That's about a 65% increase alone right there. That has pushed up, back to the right-hand side, the overall portion of Promise students in Tennessee at the TCATs up to 18%. So nearly 1 in 5 Tennessee Promise students now go to a TCAT. A remarkable change from just a few years ago. That all then leads, of course, into one of the central elements of the strategic plan, which is completion. And last year, TCATs awarded nearly 8,000 diplomas and certificates. That increase is around 1,300 from just 4 years ago. And thanks to Chris Tingle and his data sleuthing, we think that 7,900 number is the largest in TCAT's history, except for a couple years right during the Great Recession, when we, of course, were eclipsing around 8,000 credentials a year. So, but for that couple year period, as we track this back into the 80s, we don't see a number that high ever in terms of TCAT credentials. Finally, breaking down some trends we see in those awards, this will stand in contrast to what we see on the community college side. So what you see here on the left and the right is a demographic breakdown of the TCAT awards on the left, those 8,000 students, and the 14,000 credentials on the right at community colleges, which we saw and heard a lot about at the September board meeting. So on the left, those TCAT awards you see are around 62% awarded to men, the other 30% awarded to women. That's almost the exact opposite as it is at community colleges, where about 60% of community college credentials are awarded to women and the remaining 40% to men. The racial breakdown of TCAT awardees is roughly mirroring the state's population. You see large numbers of Black and Hispanic, particularly men, at the TCATs. The community college awards are disproportionately white students, but TCAT's a little more representative of the broader state. So you see differences across demographics in both sectors, and the comparisons are interesting as we think about the way TCATs are heading in the future. All these numbers are, of course, going to change rapidly, we think, based on the expansion, the $1 billion, and the capacity we have, the capacity funding we got for faculty and equipment several years ago, and just the renewed attention being paid to TCATs across the higher education sector. Again, we see more of them going into higher ed, more of them going on Tennessee Promise, and hopefully we see those credential numbers continue to grow over the years. That is a quick overview of what we see of the TCAT sector. Madam Chair, be happy to answer questions if there are any from any member.
Regent Harold? Are you thinking or? Okay, okay. Oh, very good.
Yeah, so Russ, one thing that we're trying to figure out, specifically at the department, there are a number of TCATs that have, the high school enrollment students vary from I think 16% all the way to 77%. So, at these specific TCATs, do you have any specific actual completion numbers, not just enrollment, but of those kids that are attending in high school that are doing dual enrollment at these TCATs? What are their, when can we find out what the actual completion is, and are they actually earning a certificate after going through the program? Are they taking the exam? Are they receiving their certificates? I'd love to get some more information about that.
We can provide that. We know some about that. Now, in many cases, they don't get enough of the clock hours to get to that certificate. So probably the bulk of it is probably prepping them for hopeful eventual matriculation to a TCAT. But we do have some who are able to get certificates, whether it's through just the general dual enrollment experience or like an early college technical high school, like at TCAT Dixon, I think it is. So yeah, we can get that for you, and hopefully over time that grows. As students have availability from 9th grade on, as you know, that provides them more time to hopefully get at least some sort of initial credential.
But at some point, even if they're spending 4 years of their high school, years trying to get this, are they then enrolling in the TCAT and getting a certification?
Yeah.
That's
a good question. Yeah.
4 to 1 year, right?
Right.
That they're invested in a program.
Yeah.
And if it's just 4 years and then they're doing something else, I just really think we need to hone in and really understand, are these kids, especially in these TCATs where the numbers are 56%, one was 77% of high school kids are in a TCAT, what are they getting for that investment of their time and education?
It's a great question. You raised the conversion rate question initially, and I think it was last meeting we talked about. We can see how many, and this is across community colleges and TCATs, how many dual enrollment students then matriculate into the community college or TCAT. We see it's around 20% or so on the TCAT side. I think that number is probably going to hopefully inch upwards over time as more of them are just simply exposed to what that offering actually is and being aware of the possibility. So we see some conversion rates that is an opportunity for, I think, TBR to think through how to convert more into full-time enrollments.
Well, would love to work with you guys,
too.
to get that information, because I think we need to be really transparent so that then we can work with high schools and our directors of schools to really help them understand.
That's right.
What is that transition? How do we seamlessly ensure that? How do we ensure that we're supporting them into a seamless transition to that next step so they actually earn something?
Yeah, definitely, because the demand is definitely there, as you know.
Okay, thanks.
Regent Harold.
Excellent.
I just want to make sure I understood.
Regent Harold and then Regent Hatcher, sorry.
I just want to make sure I understood that right. 20% of high school students who are dual enrolled in a TCAT program enroll in the TCAT to complete their program once they graduate from high
That's
school.
correct, yeah. Similar to
And
the
there's-
community college number 2, by the way, yeah.
Some would move into community college.
Some of those would, sure, yeah. Now, in both of those situations too, this is probably the core observation, I think, about the dual enrollment phenomenon that's, I think, of actionable interest to TBR, is that a significant portion of all that dual enrollment activity, TCAT and community college, doesn't go to higher education anywhere, not just TBR, anywhere.
Right.
That's an opportunity.
Right.
As y'all see, we have 18,000 TCAT students on the community college side. It's another 20-ish thousand if my staff can nod or shake their heads along. So there's a tremendous opportunity there for that, and that conversion rate is a chance for us to hopefully eat into those Drive 55 numbers that we have.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So we've got, in a school that has 70% let's say 50, the school has 50%, 20% of that 50% is going on into the TCAT. Some will go into a community college. I presume some would go to a
Sure.
four-year.
Yep, that's right, correct. Yep.
Do any of those, some portion of those would have a certificate when they graduate high school?
Some would,
A
yes.
small
Mhm,
amount
mhm.
there.
Yes.
And the delta there is where your opportunity is.
Correct,
Is that what
because
you're
again, some don't go to college anywhere.
Regent Hatcher.
Yep, two
Yes, sir.
questions.
Yes, sir.
So how does Tennessee compare to other states on all this? I'd love to have bragging rights.
Boy, I wish I could, I don't know the answer. I wish I could give you a better answer. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, we
I
need
would-
to check on, I mean, with
Yeah.
all this investment, you would
It's a
think
lot.
that we're just
Yeah.
killing it
Yeah,
and maybe leading the country, and that would be good.
I'll see what I can find out for you on that one.
Okay, another question. So the dual enrollment got my attention because number one was welding and number two was farming operations. What does that mean?
TCAT Crump is killing it, is one of the short ways to think about it. Stephen Milligan and that campus have really ramped up that program. It's a fairly new one. I think that program began, Jothany, in maybe the last 4 or 5 years, maybe. Is that right? So they just had a really good localized response to that offering.
What is the training? What is it?
I'm gonna have to refer to a TCAP president for specifics on that. Anyone know? But I mean, it's. Well, Stephen, you want to come address this, President Milligan?
Farming operations technology basically has 4 segments. Students can choose which one they want to complete. Crop production, livestock production, precision ag, or forestry technician. So there's 4 different pathways in that program. And to be honest, our high school teachers like the program just honestly, because it brings it back to the core of agriculture as opposed to the high school curriculum, which has kind of gotten maybe a little messy and outside of what's traditional ag in our area. Does that make sense? So they were really all on board and gung ho with adopting the TCAT model as opposed to the CTE thing.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah,
So
it is.
if we could continue to grow that,
so.
especially with our challenges of farmer and farmland loss.
Indeed.
By the way, I had the privilege to be at the launch of that program on a rainy day down in Crump. And that 64 is a lonely highway in the pouring down rain. But it was absolutely worth the time. And the best thing, Commissioner Hatcher, is that you could just feel success in the air that day because the right people there, the community was engaged. They had some of the biggest, cleanest, most beautiful farm equipment I've ever seen, and the breakfast was terrific that folks from the community had cooked. But it just, you knew from day one that it was going to work. And Stephen, that's a real credit to your leadership as well. Yes, sir.
And if I could add on to that, first of all, thank you so much for compiling what seems to be many months of dedicated work to not only getting to data to see where we can find those last little bits of students that are somewhat either indirectly involved in programs or have yet to be, and we're kind of trying to find that niche and up our numbers just because, by and large, the people who enrolled in secondary education across most metrics end up having either improved sense of self, improved standings, and let alone, financial success in the future. My one question would be, with regards to TCATs as it relates to community colleges, the issue that I feel happens with TCATs, especially with matriculation, which is one of the main things we've been talking about, is that advancement after high school. One of the main things that, in my high school experience, we talked all the time about community colleges and four-year universities and building towards that. Mm-hmm. And TCATs are kind of in this liminal space where they're very well done. They're very productive. They lead to a lot of, workplace. A lot of the qualms that most people have with higher education are solved with technical schools as they are developed at the moment. So I think the issue is not necessarily one of purely matriculation, but also one of encouraging enrollment across the board. So it's very encouraging to see that you're more looking towards improving awareness in addition to improving the programs. Because I think that's one of the main issues that we have is that most students wouldn't know they were there except for the people who go to the shop class.
Right.
Right? So there's a big difference in how that encourages. And like you said before, with regard to community colleges, that practical nursing application, healthcare is one of the largest growing fields we have. I mean, I myself am a nursing major. Of course, I have a certain number of opinions about it, but it's really encouraging to hear that you're working towards developing this segment of what we all contribute to, especially as it relates to encouraging not only the attainment but the retainment of students who are still enrolled.
That awareness is key. And of note, you know, the promise that technical programs hold, not just the TCATs, but across all of our community colleges too, who have those programs in abundance as well. I think that awareness has been key to a lot of this data. Yeah.
Anybody else? Regent Kastner, and then we'll come back to Regent Harold.
Russ, great to see you today. I was looking at some of your data while listening to you at the same time, which isn't that smart of me, but when I look at the data on the community colleges, it shows, if I look back to like 2014, 2015, and I'm looking at the health professions, that's where I'm kind of focused, it's a fraction of what it was back in 2014 and 2015. Then when I look at the TCATs, I see, and for example, there's about 6,200 people enrolled at community college health pathways or programs, I guess, right now. And when I look at the TCATs, there's health gets up to about another 5,200. Is there a shifting from enrollment into nursing programs or health programs from community colleges into TCATs? Is that happening as we live through this period of time, or what?
I guess it has a little bit, and I don't know exactly why that has occurred. We've sort of noticed that too. I mean, there was a general sense during part of the early COVID era that there was a developing aversion among the population to going into healthcare, period, more so than there had been. So that was something we were noticing a bit, but the shift you noticed, Regent Kastner, is one that we've seen too. I don't exactly know what's causing that. Part it's probably the extra capacity that TCATs have been able to bring on board lately.
And Russ, if I could lean into that
Sure.
answer just a little bit, one of the things that we've noticed in our hospitals with the accrediting bodies, we see this trend. They sometimes only allow RNs, and then sometimes they shift back to the LPN.
Right.
With COVID and all that happened, we have shifted back to LPNs being a big hire within the hospital administration. So we've got more hospitals working with us to fill those positions at the TCAT level. So we are seeing that right now.
Are they, if HCA has a program somewhere, are they doing that separate and apart from our TCAT and community college, or are they coming
No, they're
through?
doing that with us.
With us.
You know, we'll have them come to us and say sometimes, well, we don't really want to hire any more LPNs. We only want RNs. We've seen that happen. And then after COVID, as Dr. Deaton referred to, there was such a downturn in people that even wanted to go into that profession. Many of the hospitals and the accrediting bodies of the hospitals changed the hiring practices. Now they want LPNs back in those positions. So we do have the program that leads from LPN directly into RN. Students can start with the LPN program and then go into the RN if they choose to go further or if they need to. And in all likelihood, we're going to see that shift again. It tends to be cyclical with hospitals, and I would not be at all surprised if we don't see a big wave in the next several years where RNs are back. That's not what they're going to require. We'll have a lot of LPNs coming back to get that next step.
Our RNs are making enormous salaries now compared to what they made prior to COVID. That's a fact. LNs are rising also, but RNs are just kind of unbelievably
The
high.
LPN salary has increased significantly as well.
If you can get an RN, I think you can get your RN designation at Nashville State, and you can come out. I think it's about a 3-semester program. The total cost is about $10,000. You can come out and make $95,000 the first year out. I don't know of anything else in the old education environment that kind of return on investment, that kind of a fast payback. It's staggeringly unbelievable. Perchance, is it a quicker path to get either an LN or an RN if you go through a TCAT as opposed to a community college?
I guess it would be a little bit faster than TCAT.
LPN's a shorter program.
It's only about 18 months.
I know that's shorter, but I'm wondering, maybe that's what's explained. Maybe it's just a quicker payday.
Could be part of that.
Path to a payday by going TCAT. I don't know.
And we have more LPN programs available too, so more students can opt into those. And then they're both selective programs.
Right.
So you have to apply to get in. We do have people that will apply to the RN, they don't get in, they'll go take the LPN program. So there are many factors that will
Both
determine
great
where they
careers,
end up.
as you know, so, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we've got Regent Harrell, then we're going to Regent Hooper and Regent Roberts. Are you sure? Okay, all right, Regent Hooper?
Okay, so I don't want to lower the bar, and I know that completion is extremely important, and that's how we measure success a lot of times. But one thing that I do want to point out about our TCATs as it pertains to certificate completion and only measuring, I don't want to say only measuring, but using the bar of certificate completion as maybe the top or the only metric for deciding if we have been successful at the TCAT level. I think that there is another additional way to look at that. I don't want to say that certificate completion is not important, but one thing that I do want to point out is that there are always bars that you're trying to hit, and they're not that simple. For example, if you go to a four-year institution and you're trying to get your degree, what's your ultimate outcome? Your ultimate outcome is to put yourself in a position where you can be employed at a higher level of pay than you would have if you didn't go. At the TCAT level, and yes, at the TCAT level, I think that it is important to also note that we may not get to certificate completion, but a quick look at the data shows that even if in Tennessee, if you don't get your certificate, I think our TCATs help our labor participation rate. If you look at Tennessee's labor participation rate as opposed to the other southern states, and I'm sure that there's an opportunity to really look deeper into these numbers, but a precursory look at the labor force participation rate, which is how many of your people are working, TCATs do an exceptional job of being a springboard or a door opener to helping you get a job, which is at the end of the day is the most important thing that we can really do anyway. So while they may not finish their certificate, I would encourage us to not use certificate completion as the only way to say that we're successful. If we surpass Mississippi, and don't get me wrong, that's not setting the bar very high, but we surpass Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Arkansas in labor force participation rate. And I think a lot of that has to do with our TCATs opening the door for people to get employment. And at the end of the day, that is the most significant thing that we can do for folks.
Well said.
To piggyback on Regent Hooper, I think, Regent Kessner, what you were asking about that, or what you were calling out about that shift from, community colleges over to the TCAT, thinking about that through the lens of someone who was a high school teacher for a number of years, there are, across the state, districts, high schools, there's a really large disparity between programs that have very flushed out, well-run, well-sourced, well-materialed, welding programs and things like this. And then a school just, Peyton Manning could throw a football from one and hit the other, and that school just doesn't have the resources. They may only have welding 1, or they may only go up to welding 2. And where the state is positioned to have these TCATs across the state, not only does it allow students, not only does it offer an opportunity to say, hey, starting as early as 9th grade or whenever, you can start doing these dual enrollments. And not only can you take the same welding class or the health class that you can take at high school, but you're going to be getting college credit, and it's gonna translate into a degree or a credential or something like that. I think I'm not going to sit here and say that that's why that this shift's happening, but I think that we're going to continue to see that trend line continue in a positive way because those TCATs are so well positioned to take the very basic stuff at the high school and really allow students to go into depth on their own. And I think that I don't think that we should lose sight of that. Maybe, like I think about HOSA teachers, welding teachers, at David Crockett High School in Washington County, they have an incredible welding program, but it stops just at pipe fitting. They talk about steam fitting, they talk about refrigeration in theory, but they can get on at TCAT Elizabethton and they can do refrigeration. They can do commercial HVAC and industrial. So I think that's kind of where that value is, and we're opening the door. And that's the opportunity to capture those students and say, look, you don't have to be just here taking classes, you know, to hit an elective or whatever. Like, you could explore this, and maybe it's not HVAC, maybe it's refrigeration that you go into. And I think that's where that real value and that real pickup is. So thank you.
Thank you. Regent Harold, you want to put a bow on it? Our final comment, maybe?
On I'm trying to think about this. Totally hear the comments on the completion issue, and our goal here is not K to C, it's K to J. Right, that's our goal, K to J. K to J. The one caveat, though, that I would put on the completion rate component of it is that, yes, we want people entering the workforce. That's ultimately what we need them to do. But that 75% complete that gets you a better paying job today, when the economy looks like 2008, 2009, 2010 and shifts, well, that's not going to be good enough anymore, because they'll be requiring that at that point. So I think we do need to have, we don't need to lose, I don't think you were saying this, by the way. We don't need to lose sight of that as we're making progress there to get there. My question was back to the dual enrollment piece, though. Just to make sure I heard right, I think I heard you say that one of the students who are dual enrolled in high school through the TCAT, it's the workforce hours, the job hours, like the training hours that they have. I assume that's physically in somewhere like an internship or something like that. Is that what we're talking about?
Could be. They could do dual enrollment, you know, at the high school where the TCAT instructor goes there. It could come onto the TCAT. There's several versions of how it could look in practice, if I understand your question.
Is that the or a primary hindrance to them graduating high school with their certificate?
No, I think most of it's
complete the
time.
hours?
Most of it's time, and a lot of, and I learned this from Dr. Rainey yesterday. A lot of TCAT dual enrollment students will not be singularly focused on a program. They will shop a bit and be enrolled in several at the same time. So probably not accumulating the hours necessary for that first credential, which is usually that 432, the first full trimester. That just takes a while to get to.
So it's not completing the academic hours. It is completing the academic hours, not just the.
It's a function
for
of time
specific
mostly.
program.
Yeah, it's a function of time mostly.
Okay.
I think.
Commissioner?
All I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, the goal should be that they actually earn something. If they go to a TCAT, they go to a community college, they go to a 4-year, there should be some level of completion. It's not just it shouldn't just be a participation goal. It should be an actual completion role. That's all I'm trying to say. And I think that's an opportunity for Tennessee to take it to that next level, which is why, again, as I said in the last meeting and I say in this one, I want to be more engaged. We, the department, want to be more engaged in trying to look and understand how can we help support TBR, how can we help support our leadership at the TCATs, at the community colleges, and at our higher education, right? So that kids are well informed to understand that shopping around isn't going to get you anywhere, right? You need to be on a program of study. We need to be better supporters at the high school level and at the, as we're introducing these kids to these coursework so that they actually can go into this work and we're not relying on the workforce side of things, on the industry to actually help them complete. That is our obligation as the education community, is not only prepare kids, but also get them to where they actually attain something. So I think that's what our business and industry folks expect, that we're just not handing them someone that isn't all the way there. So I'm just saying it's an opportunity. It's not a criticism, but I think it's something we really should work on and be very focused on over the next couple of years.
I think we all share that same goal.
Oh, we absolutely do. And I just want to interject because I think we got convoluted just a little bit in our completion rates. You were speaking about high school students finishing their dual enrollment degree, and I think you were
I'm talking about it all. Like, and high school students that make that investment in their high school years to then matriculate wherever.
Yes.
And continue to pursue that pathway, whatever it is. It could just be an offshoot of it. It could be, it's just, again, they're expecting to do something with it. And I think it's just, I just want to keep the bar at a level where we're focused on that as well. That's all.
Yes, which is, and that's exactly right. And we've been working really hard, and we're so happy to be working with you more on this to help students have a pathway. As Dr. Reed had shared, in the past, there was a lot of shopping around at the high school level. I'll take English, I'll take this, I'll take that, and I'll just kind of see. To Shane's point, some of that's not a bad thing. Maybe they see they don't like certain fields of study before they actually get completely embedded into a program of study. We do not have as many people leaving high school and going to the TCAT as we would like that have been taking dual enrollment, and so we really want to work with you to make that better. What I'm saying, talking about, is the completion rate at our TCATs. I don't want that to get muddled in with this conversation. The completion rate at our TCATs is at 87%. Whenever we lose a student, usually at a TCAT, it's because a company came in and hired them before they completed their program of study. So we have extremely high completion and pass rates once they leave high school, get into the program, and go on and finish. We've got to do a much better job of trying to help them see the value in completing that. I do think, and Dr. Deaton, I know you're going to pull those numbers so that we can share them out. We do have a much higher completion rate at the high school level than we've ever had. Those numbers were higher this past year, and they should be, since we had the highest number ever enrolled in dual enrollment. Those numbers should be going up. So it's trending in the right direction, but we need better help in counseling those students on how do I complete this and what does it mean if I do complete this? Where can I go if I have the degree in my hand? So absolutely, completely agreeing with what you're saying. It's what we need to keep working on. And Dr. Deaton, you probably can have those numbers pulled maybe before the end of the meeting today, because I know that Amy was over there shaking her head like she might have them. So we'll work on that.
We'll get right on it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Deaton, always, and thank you, Chancellor. Important clarification. And we need to give Commissioner Hatcher some bragging rights. So, working on it. Dr. Lemming, let's continue to talk about student success and some strategic partnerships you're working on.
Yeah, good morning, Vice Chair Reynolds, members of the board, and Chancellor Tidings. Today, I'm going to highlight some newly revisioned work in the Office of Student Success and Strategic Partnerships. Those of you that were at our summer meeting at Jackson State will recall the Chancellor mentioning that work that had been previously under the Office of Organizational Effectiveness was being moved into the Office of Student Success. And my role was being expanded to include focusing on university partnerships. And so today I want to talk a little bit more about the vision that we've identified for that work since our summer meeting and give you a sense of what our plan is. Move to the next slide. So the office work is going to focus around 4 pillars that pay particular attention to internal grant coordination, university partnerships, teaching and learning, and statewide student support. There's going to be a lot of cross-collaboration between each of these pillars, particularly when we think about university partnerships and how we can do many of these things with our LGI partners in grant coordination and teaching and learning and student support. You'll also see mention there of 2 centers that we're going to talk a little bit more about today and what we're envisioning growth looking like for those centers, but also, again, that university partners can play a role with that work. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into each pillar of the work that we're going to focus on. The first pillar, Pillar 1, internal grant coordination. On this slide are just some examples of work that we've already been engaging with, particularly around our Ascendium grant. So I've presented to the board before on our high impact practice and mindset work. We're also doing research on high impact practices in 7-week courses and leveraging our ambassador program. One new addition that I'll mention that again connects with that university piece is that we launched what we're calling our High Impact Practice Pathway Ambassador Program that will seek to engage LGI faculty in working with our faculty within the transfer pathways specific to high impact practices. We did open those applications last month. We just closed that. We're going to be excited to announce those ambassadors here later this week, and they'll start that work with us in January. The second focus under, again, the grant work in internal grant coordination pillar is that we have revisioned our internal grant making process. So if you've been on the board a while, you may recall reports that were done on what we called our access and diversity funds. We've renamed those the Student Success and Innovation Funds. We give block grants out to all of our colleges, including the LGIs, every year. That's done in late summer. That has already gone out. And then each TBR institution is also able to apply for competitive grants that are aligned with the 3 focus areas you see listed on this screen. We are incentivizing our colleges to apply for these grants that would include an LGI partner in their proposal and that aligns with the state of Tennessee's learning agenda. So they will get priority preference for funding when they do that. We announced these grants in October, and they will be due in late January. We'll make those decisions in late spring with funding to be made available in the next fiscal year. Under our grant umbrella, we continue to offer Perkins grants and awards. Again, on the screen here is an example of our most recent Ready 3.0 awardees. This is for CTE, specific funding, equipment, one time, and again, that is a competitive grant process. We also have leveraged our Perkins grant dollars to expand our Skills USA engagement with students this past year. This expansion of the funds doubled Tennessee's participation in our Washington Leadership Training Institute. And finally, under the grant pillar, wanted to mention that we are coordinating, working in partnership with the business office and Vice Chancellor Fox to offer a grant officer training series this year. It kicked off in November. It'll go through next fall. You can see the various topics that we're offering to not only staff in the system office, but at our campuses to help them learn the latest and greatest on how you manage federal and state grants and a lot of the business processes that occur behind the scenes on that. The second pillar is our university partnership. Chancellor Tidings and I have been doing listening tours with university presidents this fall, and in that conversation, we're talking a lot with them about our intention to build those partnerships around high-impact practices. We have a couple left to do in early January, but we've been hearing a lot of good feedback and excitement about engaging with us in this space. But also, we have revisioned our biannual conference that LGIs are invited to participate in. Our next conference is October 29th and 30 of 2025, and it's now going to be referred to as Degrees of Success. That conference will not only leverage our high impact practice work, but it'll also leverage our work with a consortium, not only the TNSIS consortium, but our Service Learning Consortium, and involve not again the universities, but also public and private colleges within that consortium model. Our Tennessee Student Support Network is also another way that we can partner with other universities. And that's really couched within what I'm calling the Learning Hub model. So you'll see here we're going to have 3 focuses for this work. It'll be on high impact practices and teaching, student leadership, and professional learning. Again, connecting with our university partners, the conference will focus on those specific tracks, and we are going to embed our annual student conference into that. So we expect to have about 150 students participating alongside faculty and staff at our conference this coming fall. So this is where we start to transition to Pillar 3. There's a lot of synergy between the university piece and teaching and learning. Again, we're doing a lot more now with our Center for Teaching and Learning. We've added staff, including an Associate Vice Chancellor, Marla Cartwright. Dr. Cartwright joined us in August. You can see some of the work that she's been doing here with Dr. Rita Summers. They are focusing on CTE, faculty training. We're also bringing in our Mindset High Impact Practice Coordinator and our Director of Assessment to really build a team that's going to bring support and structure to our institutions in this space. I would like to mention Dr. Summers, Rita Summers. So many of you know her as a former president, TCAT president. She has led work on a TCAT New Faculty Institute, and we hope that that CTE training that she's offering to TCAT faculty will be something we can expand to our community colleges in the coming year. Initial success, her first cohort in September had 96 attendees. She has restructured the asynchronous course, the orientation, and now have over 130 learners in that. We will offer a cohort gathering every trimester for new TCAT faculty, so that number is only going to continue to grow moving forward. So I want to talk a little bit, this is some new information really for a lot of folks, in that we're thinking about the launch of a Center for Global Innovation Partnerships and Student Support. And this would be under that third pillar. Effective January 6th, Tracy Bradley, who has been serving as the Chief Officer for the TNSIS program, will be joining the TBR staff, Office of Student Success, as our Assistant Vice Chancellor for Global Innovation Partnerships and Student Support. We intend to bring the TNSIS program from Pellissippi State to the system office under the Office of Student Success to launch that as not only a system-wide program, but thinking again about partnerships with other colleges in the state of Tennessee who might want to participate in the consortium. So because we're kind of preparing for students to go abroad starting in January, we won't move the rest of the staff until after that has happened in July. Most of their programs go out in early summer. But you'll see here an expanded role that TNSIS and this center will look to do, including supporting international students and English language learners, and again, that strategic partnership piece. Normally at this meeting, I would bring to you also some updates from our International Ed Report, and I think it ties nicely into why we're thinking about this center. So I want to share with you Open Doors is a national report that ranks all of the institutions across the country and the number of students they send abroad annually. The most recent data is 22-23, and you can see there Pellissippi State was ranked third in the country for the number of community college students they're sending abroad, and Columbia State was in the top 25. That number will only grow. I'm sure they'll increase in their ranking there because 23-24, we exceeded even pre-pandemic levels in the number of students going abroad, with 425 students studying abroad, about $860,000 in scholarships awarded to students to help that financial barrier be addressed in participating. And we're seeing a shift in the number of partnership programs. So those of you not familiar with our consortium model, we offer courses across the TBR system taught by faculty at any institution and open to all students across our institutions. But we also have a partnership program where TNSIS will put together a program for one institution or a couple institutions that want to work together just for their students. We're seeing more and more growth in that space as well. Because of that growth, it's really in our efforts to align to thinking about a global workforce that's driving the expansion and growth for the center and realignment under the Office of Student Success here at the system office. The other pillar is our statewide student support. I want to let you know we have posted an opening for our Chief Access and Compliance Officer. That position actually will close tomorrow. We're going to be doing interviews before the holiday break. This position is part of a team that, among other things, will look at the holistic support we provide to students, including legislative requirements on the federal side that you see listed there, as well as state legislation related to suicide prevention, foster youth, ADA, other things that might be coming down the pike. Previously, I spoke about our efforts to scale a student support network at our last board meeting, and that work's led by our Assistant Vice Chancellor, Christina Crow-Waymeyer, in partnership with 3 other state agencies. We see this role really supporting the work of that office and other members of that team. They will also work closely with the Office of General Counsel and audit as needed, and be a frontline staff member working on behalf of our campuses as issues arise in this space. Our work to support students with disabilities and accessibility is also aligned to this 4th pillar. In April, the Department of Justice released new regulations concerning digital accessibility. In order to assist our schools in meeting those standards, we brought on a director of accessibility, Amy Nephew, in August. You can see there on the screen kind of what her work, her key priorities for that role will be. But it's worth noting that about 10 years ago, the Tennessee Board of Regents was recognized by the National Federation for the Blind for the work that we were doing around accessibility. We've not had a full-time person in that role since then, but we've had a lot of requests from faculty and others on campuses for assistance, so we're really excited to finally make that happen through this revisioning of the office. I also want to point out that we continue to collect data from our colleges in this space, and we are seeing significant growth year over year in the number of students our colleges are serving with registered disabilities. This increase demands that we use our training capability as a system to support our faculty and staff to better serve that population, as well as ensure the technologies we're using in the classroom are meeting those standards of accessibility. So in conclusion, I just wanted to, again, give you high level what we're working on within this office. We have always aspired to be a national leader in how we coordinate student support services. But this enhanced vision, I think, really is going to make a difference for how we support students through the pipeline and help them to achieve their completion of a degree. And we feel it's through direct support with faculty and staff who are on the front lines working with those students and giving them the assistance they need. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Regent White?
Heidi, I was curious when you mentioned Pellissippi State and the success they're having with the study abroad programs. Are there specific programs, or is it just kind of a general?
It's across the board, but the advantage that Pellissippi State has had is that they've had the staff housed at their institutions, so they're obviously allowed to have greater access to students for recruitment and that sort of thing. That's why we feel like the next step really is bringing it to the system office, because we'll have that staff now that can go out and really do a lot more direct work with our campuses, help them recruit students. We're also looking to expand student participation from our TCATs, which we've never done before, but is in growing demand when we think about all the global investment in Tennessee in CTE types of fields. And more of those employers are looking for students, graduates who understand kind of the international culture of their organizations and how they do their work, but also they're making lots of innovations globally that we want to be on the cutting edge of.
To our student regent.
Yes. So first of all, I'm very excited to be talking about TNSIS in any regard. I actually participated last summer with regard to a study abroad program as well. So am I correct in stating that this is going to be moving from Pellissippi entirely to a centralized, like within the TBR's sphere, for the purpose of expanding and rolling out that program in a lot more specific investment?
Yeah, Pellissippi State has been very grateful, or gracious, I should say. We've been grateful to them for funding much of the operations of that program on behalf of our institutions. But we really feel like at this point we need to make that a system investment so that we can, equally give attention to that focus area on behalf of all of our institutions. There's a lot that goes into study abroad. Faculty have to go across the sea and vet locations and where you're going to be housed and make sure that all the safety and security pieces are there. And some of that, can get kind of tricky when you're talking about students at a wide variety of institutions and how you coordinate that. We feel like it'll be more efficient when it's coordinated centrally.
Absolutely. Frankly, I was amazed with how well it was ran, knowing it was centralized to one main location and a couple other community colleges that kind of participated in the program. Mm-hmm. So I'm encouraged to see how this goes for you and centralize that office.
Great, thank you.
Regent Garland.
As you know, I enjoyed, we went together, 2018 was it? Mm-hmm. When I took a TNSIS trip and I paid for my own, but it was fantastic. I had an opportunity, to work with Tracy, to visit different places, and it was where students were studying, what they were doing, why, the why, like in I guess it was Germany. We went to the big Volkswagen plant,
Wow.
which of course then was particularly with the Chattanooga plant and everything going on with that. But they really set them up to be highly, not just educational, but really effective in showing students how things are being done in whatever that country is and why. I mean, for example, in Germany, we got to meet with the Chamber of Commerce and hear about how the Chamber of Commerce is the one that decides what community colleges teach. I mean, that's how they do it there. And it's, it's not unlike what we do in terms of making sure there are jobs out there. We're not teaching things that nobody's going to get a job in for either one of those. But it was so wonderful. I would encourage any one of you to consider doing that because it's really informative, but it's also incredible. Tracy, I wish I could take her on every trip I ever go on from now on because she is incredible and how she keeps up with all those kids. I would trust her totally with my kids if she was in charge of a program. But really and truly, it's a great opportunity. I hope to go again.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody else? And I'll just add, thanks to you both for your outreach to our LGI presidents. It is so easy when we're not part of the same system, right, to lose those close ties. Stephen's nodding, he understands too. And to revive those contacts and those relationships is really critical for both them and us. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think the chancellor would tell you that the visits so far have gone extremely well. I mean, more than I think we even thought. They're very excited to have us come talk with them.
That's right. Well done. Well done. Thank you, Heidi, as always. Dr. McCormick, here she comes with an external affairs update, and I think we're going to talk about our foundation and some fundraising this morning.
Yes, we are. So good morning, Vice Chair, Chancellor, members of the board. The External Affairs Office has been busy as usual all fall. One thing I do want to tell you about is the workforce convening, as you all know, was held back in the spring. You all have received a report from Dr. Jeff Sisk about that. You have the actual report in your materials just for you to have. But one of the things that we learned from that workforce convening, actually I shouldn't say something we learned, something that was affirmed during that meeting, is that it's very important for our presidents and campuses to keep very close relationships and engagements with our members of the General Assembly and the business and industry partners. So we already have a portal for presidents to report their legislative activity with members of the General Assembly, but our Vicki Bunch in our office has worked very closely with Dr. Amy Moreland in Policy and Strategy to do something that the Chancellor wanted, and that is to have a place where presidents can report that activity with their business and industry partners. So that is up and running, just like our legislative portal is. It's been running for about a month, and I'm very proud to say that our presidents have already logged over 70 visits with business and industry partners across the state.
That's great.
So we're very proud of that. The second thing I want to tell you is they have also been very busy with groundbreakings. We've had 32 groundbreakings since June. Chancellor has been right there leading the charge on every single one of them. And our team has worked under the assistance of John Williams and Patrick Boggs, have helped all of these campuses to pull off all these groundbreakings very soon. We're going to send that Office of External Affairs home so they can rest up, because as you know, in January, that's our high season. So we will start with the General Assembly reconvening in session, and we will also be working on SOAR and Legislative Day on the Hill. So we keep these people busy all the time. But for now, I would like to turn everything over to Chris Perkins, who is going to give you an update on the Foundation for the College System of Tennessee annual fundraising report.
Well, thank you, Dr. McCormick and Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, members of the board. It is my honor to stand here today before you and present the FY24 Foundation Report. Today's update is a culmination of the entire FY24 volunteer support for Education report that our community colleges turn into CASE, which is the Council for Advancement of Supportive Education, and they do that each fall. It is without question that our 13 community college advancement offices are just extremely solid. It is also important to note that I want y'all to know that we would not be what we are as a foundation without the hard work and effort of our presidents at the TCATs and what they go out and do in their community and report back to me and give me leads and the work they do with the people they know there. Also, our staff here at TBR is amazing. I can tell you, as you know, with everything that's happened in the state this year, if we're riding in a car and those floods happen in East Tennessee, well then bam, our staff and everybody, we raise $10,000 that we can get out to help schools there. If there's an employee that may be going through something here, bam, here's $1,500 we get raised by staff that want to help. So it's such a culture here that we have of giving that I just want that to be noted. Each of you have the full advancement report in front of you, but I wanted to share a few slides today that go into a little more detail on the information you have. I don't know what I'd be in life without Carol Tomlinson. She's green button. Yes, yes. We had an overall increase from the previous year of $1.5 million. And I want to say congratulations to Dr. Shauna Jackson at Nashville State. They were tops in fundraising this year at $4.28 million. Roane State was right behind at $4.20. I told Dr. Whaley that I might swipe some baskets from St. Stephen's and bring them here so we can pass them out and maybe he could get a little closer to Dr. Jackson. But then we were going to let Dr. Jackson compete as well. So, and then as always in our top three, 1, 2, or 3, Dyersburg State is always there. They do an awesome job as well. They round out our top 3. We had 7 community colleges that raised a minimum of $1 million this year. 6 hit that mark last year, so we're up 1 on that. And 6 of our community colleges increased their overall giving amounts over FY23 as well. And our 13 community colleges on the endowments are the highest they've ever been. If you combine all 13 community colleges, that's $138 million plus almost $139 million in endowments. So they've really done well with that. As for the foundation for the college system of Tennessee, we had our 3rd best year in our existence after having our 2 best years overall in FY22 and 23. We had a total of $642,754 raised this year. A couple of things to note on that. It took us 2 years to spend all of the AT&T grant money we got. We got $130,000 from them year before last. And so it took us 2 years to spend that grant money. If you remember, our foundation had a fund to pay for students' certification exams and various computer-related programs. We have now spent all of that money and are eligible again to get AT&T funding this year. Also, we received a donation from FedEx of 3 aircraft engines. And when FedEx gave us the total, it was at $100,000. And if any of you know Wes Stowers of Stowers Caterpillar, he's an aviation man and an Air Force grad. Well, he is now looking on eBay trying to find 3 large aircraft engines that he can get for $100,000 because he's going to flip them and sell them. He was blown away that it only was $100,000, but we were very appreciative to get them. So that was there. And then we met as an executive board at the beginning of FY24 we've really grown, and I'll show the growth and talk about it just a little bit. But as you can see in FY18, the year before we became the foundation for the College System of Tennessee, there was $88,000 raised. So we've done a really good job of getting our name out there and getting in front of people, but now we want to start shifting the conversation with people that we brought in to think like endowed type gifts for our foundation that will go on in perpetuity. While we love the gifts we're getting, some of the conversations we're having now with some of our larger donors is just to think like bigger as far as helping us endow faculty, potentially help endow scholarships. So with that conversation's changing, And so that also created a little dip this year, but I can tell you we're already on target for next FY. We're ahead of where we are now, so that's good. This is just something that I always find interesting. If you go back to FY18 and you look at our largest gifts, we had one gift of $20,000 or more. And since this foundation and this board has come together, those gifts of $20,000 or more have just gone through the roof. So there's just a really big change in that. This year was highlighted by the FedEx in-kind gift of $100,000. So our assets this year, we finished the year just under 2.5 million, and that was because we had, and I know President Wade was thrilled about it. We got to utilize money that was in the TCAT Murfreesboro account for foundation from Haas to help pay off a lab. So that dipped us a little bit, but we're up to about 2.9, just under, we're just about 2.9 currently in this fiscal year. This is where I talked about it last year. This is where I'm just thrilled, and I just feel like where we're doing our best work. As we've been awarding scholarships through the foundation, two of the ones we manage are the James Burdett Brown Scholarships for TCATS students and the Sam Odom Scholarship for RN students. If you go back to where we were in FY12 up to when we formed the foundation in FY19, we gave out around $229,000 in 8 years. And since FY19, since we became the foundation for the college system of Tennessee, we have given out, and I can tell you with a little drum roll, through November, we're just $20,000 away from $1 million. So we will have, when I meet with you next year, we'll be well over that. Some point in January, we will hit the $1 million in scholarships dispersed during this time. I wanted to share with you a couple of the recipients. We're now seeing the students that we've given scholarships to, and they're out there in the, moving on and doing great things. This is Sandra Manning. She's a student from Roane State. She's pursuing her Bachelor of Science in Nursing at the University of Tennessee. She said, looking ahead, she's committed to continuing her education with aspirations of earning her master's degree and potentially her doctorate in nursing. She plans to specialize in geriatric medicine and preventative care as a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant. So really proud of her. And this is Carlos Felix from TCAT Dixon. Carlos has been employed with TCAT Dixon's Clarksville campus as an industrial electrical maintenance and mechatronics instructor since August of 2022. And he was a James Burdett Brown Scholarship recipient in 2021. These are the people that we get to help on a daily basis. This is what, if I ever am down, not fit, this is what gets me up every stinking morning, that I get to come in and help these students. Not just me, but I get to work with a conglomerate of people that get to help these students. And it's just an honor to be in this position to get to do this every day. I will let you know, Dr. McCormick mentioned SOAR, and let you know that as of today, we've raised over $100,000 in sponsorships, and we have a few more of people of companies that have given in the past that are like, I'll let you know in the next few weeks. So there's about $40,000 still out there of either folks that have given in the past or folks who have committed and just haven't told me the amount. And I say this every year, and it's my Christmas present to me. In 2018, right before the first SOAR, I was in a literal cold sweat. We had raised $0 in December of this time, and if it weren't for Regent Varlin and Vice Chair Reynolds giving me leads on people to go out, those seeds have grown. And I want to thank Regent George and IMC companies for what you do in supporting the event. And if anybody wants to support this event, feel free, give me a call, let me know. I can tell you real quickly, on the groundbreakings as we're going out, I've been to probably 90% of them. I'm meeting the construction companies, the architects, and we had a construction company come up to us at one and said, hey, we're new to the area. How do we give money in the state of Tennessee? And I said, well, do I have an opportunity for you? They have given $10,000 to SOAR. They are excited about sponsoring the legislative breakfast. They do not have a lobbyist, so we're ethically good on that end. And they are overly excited that they think their logo is going to be on a chicken magnet. So we're really excited about that. They're thrilled about it. That's pretty much my report. I can tell you, like I said, this foundation would not be possible without the help of Dr. McCormick, without Chancellor, without the support I get from all of the regents that I call upon to help me in a community. So just thank you. And if there aren't any further questions, I will turn the podium back over to Dr. McCormick.
Well done, Chris. I think you have Christmas every day, it sounds like.
It's not a bad gig.
Oh, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so sorry, Dr. Gentile.
Scott, thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation. Can you speak to the strategies that the College Systems Foundation deploys so as to not to conflict with the presidents who are also raising funding, or like to what extent are you guys working together?
Yes, I believe we have, and Regent Varner can speak to the very beginnings of this. I'm born in Tennessee, lived here, and then lived in Georgia and worked in Georgia about 20 years. I worked at the 3 technical colleges in Georgia, and all 3 of them, we cringed when the state would come. You know, it's like, we're, as Carol would say, we're from the government, we're here to help. And, but they would come in and want things, and we're like, oh, no, don't get it. So I spent a year of my first year before COVID going up and down the interstate, all over the state, meeting with the presidents, meeting with the advancement directors to just say, I want to stay out of your lane. I do not want to get into what you're getting into, cutting into your donors. So we've done really good at that. And then the presidents, the TCAT presidents are wonderful at getting in their community, but I'm there if they have advice, if they need advice, if they need help. So I just kind of stay out of their way. I stay in communication with them. I'll give you one quick example with FedEx. My first year, I went in and met with Scott Ogden and 2 of other VPs of FedEx. And I was like, whatever we do, I do not want to get into Southwest lane or TCAT Memphis's lane. And Scott looked at me and said, Chris, we're a global company. If we don't give to you and your other colleges, we're going to give to colleges around the country. So, but we really try and stay out of the way, and it's important to just stay in communication with the advancement directors at the community colleges and the presidents. Yes.
So I have a question, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the report.
Yes, sir.
$19 million in fundraising in 2024 is just awesome. That's outstanding. And it's 34% of that comes from individuals.
Yes.
Any idea what that average looks like? I mean, how many individuals would that be?
We can dig down on that. So that's the community colleges report.
Mm-hmm.
So like Southwest Foundation, Pellissippi's Foundation, all the 13 community colleges foundation, that's data from what they are raising. Mm-hmm. And so they have a really good, and any of the presidents could speak up, they have a really good touch with their community and know the people that love their college, that have been there, that are all about that college. And where I kind of help is in the corporate, like some of the corporations that they may not have the relationships with on a national level or a state level. I come in and help with that, but I can drill down with our advancement officers. I've got them on an email blast and see if they could help dig a little bit deeper and answer that
I was just
question.
curious. Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else? Oh, sorry.
I have to brag on Chris. When we first started out, Stephen, there wasn't a lot of trust there. And to be honest, I think one of the reasons when we started working on this is you could not even get a list of the people over the individual college foundations from the TBR office. I mean, they were not communicating unless somebody knew somebody, and there was no central place where even the information about them was housed. So Chris really started out, first of all, he offered training. Yeah. Because they're so inconsistent, depending on the size of the school, some have bigger resources than others. And so we were trying to equalize that a little bit by helping with skills, helping things that might help them raise money. But, even though we said we're not going to play in your lane, we're not going to do that, I think what has happened is Chris has lived up to his word. He has helped them in every way he possibly could, sometimes getting grants from places that ended up going back in their pockets because they were bigger grants. But it was just through him being so focused on getting them to trust him, first of all, and understanding that he was not going to do what he said he wasn't going to do. And that really goes to him. And it's been incredibly successful. And I think the community colleges themselves have, because of this support, have really gotten better and are more capable of figuring out that whole fundraising thing for some that weren't. And they're sharing best practices. So much has happened under Chris. He has done a wonderful job, and Dr. Tidings has said, go forth and trust in him. That's a lot of it too.
No, that's great perspective.
Good job.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Dr. McCormick, closing comments?
Well, I just want to say I also am very thankful for Chris and the whole team. We also have great regents leading us with Regent Barlin and External Affairs and Regent George and Workforce Development. So if there are no further questions, that completes our report. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Our next item is our board assessment report, and I begin by thanking everyone for participating. We had 100% participation in this year's board assessment report, with one exception. Our student regent, Caden, had not yet been appointed. So, but from the standpoint of those who had been appointed, 100% of us responded, and that's so helpful. As you guys may recall, we are required by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, otherwise simply known as SEC, COC, that our governing board has to conduct a survey every 2 years to evaluate our responsibilities and expectations. So we were obviously in that cycle this year, and we completed this in early October. You guys have received in our packet the results of this year's survey, and I have to say we are a pretty happy bunch, and with good reason. Our responses to the questions, which were wide-ranging and also had some open-ended questions, really reflected a broad consensus around our role, our responsibilities, our processes. Some themes emerged. First, as I said, we're pretty happy folks. We feel very good about our relationships with the colleges that we know best, perhaps, those in our regions. But we also value, as we learned during the pandemic, just how much we enjoy being on our campuses each year. One person wrote that it's very beneficial in reinforcing the mission of our colleges and better understanding the needs of both our faculty and our students. You guys did express an interest, in creating more opportunities for informal engagement and some other forms of board engagement. Of course, reminding ourselves that we cannot deliberate to decisions unless we're in a public meeting like this. But I do have good news, thanks to the Chancellor and the team. As a follow-up to Russ's presentation on the strategic plan, we are going to have just that opportunity for informal engagement together in a work session next year, April 6 to 8. Some of you will recall we did this at Fall Creek Falls a couple of years ago now. Mariah will be getting more to us on that, but hold those dates, and we will be at one of our other great state assets. We're going west this year to Paris Landing State Park, or this coming year, I should say, to Paris Landing. So that will be a good session together, and again, not only time for us to engage informally and just enjoy each other's company, but to put pen to paper and do some work around the strategic plan and other topics. I'll use one quote in particular that I think sums up the open-ended question about the board's strengths, and that is that we're a collaborative board. We rely on our diverse and professional and personal backgrounds. There's a strong emphasis amongst us of getting things out in the open and honestly and having candid conversation, but very respectfully, which is a hallmark of this board. A couple of things also came up to be aware of. With our newer board members, You will see if you delve into these numbers more neutral responses on some questions than perhaps in the past, because our new board members thoughtfully engaged, but also noted that there were some areas they simply weren't as up to speed on to make a formal response, if you will. So that's the region if you see that little uptick in neutral, but we're very glad they participated in this. We always need to remind ourselves of our code of ethics, procedures, conflict of interest, requests to address the board, and there were questions around the nuances of the chancellor's evaluation. We're all going to have the experience of living through that together next year. Again, that's also just an every 2-year process. I know she's grateful for that. So more on that as we enter 2025 as we work through that process together. And at any time, just a reminder, Brian is only a phone call away on some of these other matters, and all of this is also on our TBR website. Another one that comes up every 2 years in our evaluations is not remembering if we have a process or a policy around the dismissal of board members. And that's a good thing because this doesn't come up. So we have to dust that off every couple of years as well. There is a process in the event we have to make a hard choice around the dismissal of a board member that includes some pretty rigorous due process protections. But Brian, spend 30 minutes on that just to remind us once again. 30 minutes? I meant 30 seconds. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't want you to talk for
Probably could.
Oh my goodness, that was great. 30 seconds.
First of all, it requires a 2/3 vote of the board to determine that just cause for a violation of the conflict of interest or some other reason justifies removal of a board member. Then, like the chair said, there are some very stringent procedural protections, including a Uniform Administrative Procedures Act. Those of you who work in state government are very familiar with this and recognize that it's sort of like a judge trial because it has discovery, and everybody would sit in front of this board, and this board would deliberate in open session, which is part of the reason why probably people are going to resign if it ever comes up that they need, that there would be cause to be removed from the board, because it would all take place in an open meeting and be on our website for a number of years. So.
Thank you. Is 30 minutes past yet?
We're gonna
go.
Save some time there, didn't we?
Exactly. Exactly. So again, on balance, thank you so much for your participation in this assessment. It's not just a requirement from SACS that makes this important. I think it's important for us to look at ourselves and see what's on everybody's mind. So again, thank you for taking the time. I will just add parenthetically, since I'm filling 30 minutes. No, I'll just add parenthetically, and this has come up on more than one occasion. When accreditation teams come back in, and this past, couple of months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, was Southwest, and they'll interview 2 or 3 of us each time because they like to engage with board members. Mark and Nisha and I did Southwest, met with Southwest team together. Every time they leave commenting on the level of engagement among board members that they meet. And that's a real credit to us and to all of you on that level of engagement, that when folks visit our campuses, that they see this board's commitment and this board's knowledge of the system, and particularly for these two in the case of Southwest, their community engagement with the college. So well done, everybody. That's a real hallmark for us, I think. Yeah, thank you. Anything to add there?
Well, just that we have the best board in the whole country. So, I mean, this is an incredible group of people, and I do thank each and every one of you for filling this out and being honest. I mean, each and every one of you didn't just check the mark, you read it. I could tell that you really thought about it and you were honest about your comments, so that it will make us better as we move forward. So thank you very much for that. But thank you for what you do every single day. Best board in the country, no doubt. And I hear that from SACS.
Oh, very nice. Very good to hear. So, and again, the chancellor as well, as you mentioned, in reading and thinking through our comments, if there are things she needs to report back to us on the course of this next year, we'll be hearing from her as well. But most importantly, taking to heart our desire to have a work session and some time together that will be productive and enjoyable. All right, gang. So, for about the next 30 minutes, we do still have a little bit of work to do. And we're going to move to the action items under new business. Dr. Reed, you are up with some TCAT program approvals we need to act on today.
Thank you, and greetings, Madam Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, and members of the board. Happy holidays, everyone. We have a very robust portfolio of initiatives that we do in academic affairs, but academic programming is the heart of what we do. And it's important to understand what I present reflects the vision of the presidents and what they need to provide to the communities that they serve. So I'm happy to support them. As you know, there's a policy on technical college program review and approval that guides this process, and I bring this to you every quarter. Also, the Council on Occupational Education, we refer to as COE, that is the accrediting body for the TCATs. They also require documentation from you as a governing board that you have approved these programs. Today, I'm bringing 9 program proposals forward to you and 7 program modifications for your review and approval. We have some new programs being implemented. TCAT Dixon will be implementing a new truck and driving certificate program at their Clarksville Extension campus. TCAT Jacksboro will be implementing the nursing aid certificate program at their main campus. TCAT McMinnville has 2 coming through, the Advanced Manufacturing Technical Certificate and the Advanced Manufacturing Technical Certificate, one at the main campus and one at their Coffee County campus. We also have some replications where they have the program, but they are expanding it to a different location. TCAT Elizabethton will be replicating their pipe fitting and plumbing technology diploma program at their Kingsport Center. TCAT Holdenwall has 2 programs they're replicating, the EMT certificate and welding, and TCAT Oneida will be replicating their existing allied health and medical assistant certificate. Also, we have TCAT Oneida, who will be replicating their existing cosmetology program at their Clark Range area, and that is also pending THEC approval on a site code to offer it in a new location. Again, to meet all of the accreditation requirements of COE, those have been presented to you as well in your packet. You have the 7 program modifications that are approved at the Vice Chancellor level because they're minor things like recognizing a termination of a program. Again, these proposals allow our TCATs to be really responsive to the needs of their communities, their businesses, and very importantly, our students, so they're prepared for great careers in technical education. Madam Chair, that is my report. If I have any questions.
Questions, comments for Dr. Reed? We need a motion to approve these TCAT program proposals, please. Thank you, Regent Varlet. Second, Regent Hooper. Thank you so much. Any discussion? All right, we've lucked out on this one. We just need a voice vote on this one. So hearing, you need a roll call? Oh, I'm so, or unanimous consent.
Yes.
Or unanimous consent. All right, even better. Given that this is a routine and non-controversial item, unless anyone has any objections, may we take this by unanimous consent? Yes. No objections? This is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Fox, revised budget, which you previewed with us November 12th.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair, Chancellor, and members of the board. At this time, I will be presenting the FY25 October budget revisions for your consideration and approval. The information I'm presenting today is rolled up to include the community college's TCATs and the system office budget into one summary budget presentation. Please note you should have received the mail-out tables in your materials that include details by individual college. Next slide, please. As is customary, the board approved the FY25 proposed budget at the June 24 board meeting. This approval provided the initial budgetary operating authority for our current fiscal year. However, the proposed budget does not recognize factors such as fall enrollment changes, state budget adjustments, or current grant activity. The revised budget allows us to consider these factors and make any necessary adjustments. The following slides will provide a high-level summary comparing the FY24 revised budget to the current year FY25 revised budget. Next slide, please. To be the most efficient with our time, I will only highlight notable figures on each slide, but please feel free to ask for clarification on any slide if needed. The first slide we will review is revenue. Let's put a pin in state appropriations, that top line, as we will cover those on the next slide. Under maintenance, mandatory fees, and tuition, you will recall that we had an average tuition increase of 5.1% for FY25, and enrollment for both the community colleges and TCAT sectors showed an upward trend this fall. That is reflected in the 10% change in this line. The increase in other fees revenue is most directly attributed to the reinstatement of the online course fee that was suspended between FY21 and FY24. You will recall the board approved a standardized online course fee at the March 24 meeting. Sales, service, and other increase is primarily due to budget increases in investment income due to expected improvement in market conditions. The increase in auxiliaries is primarily due to some of our TCATs returning to operating their own bookstores in-house rather than outsourcing. This change results in the recognition of both gross sales revenue and cost of goods sold expense rather than just commissions. The combined revenue increase is 6% among all categories. Next slide, please. The previous slide showed essentially flat state appropriation revenue. This slide shows you the breakdown of appropriation adjustments. You can see here that these net $1.8 million less for FY25 than in FY24, but the overall net effect is essentially flat. Next slide, please. Now moving to expenses. Slide 5 shows expenditures by function or program code, as we refer to them at the colleges. This slide shows modest growth in expenditure of 4.3% and is inclusive of the 3% salary increase for all employees this fiscal year. Next slide, please. Slide 6 is showing expenditure by classification or account code. The travel increase is attributed to professional development opportunities returning to more in-person formats instead of online, resulting in travel budgets returning to pre-COVID levels. The capital outlay decrease is due to non-recurring purchases at Nashville State and Volunteer State in FY24. Both purchased instructional and operational equipment after several years of delaying upgrades in this area. Next slide, please. This slide provides a summary that includes both unrestricted and restricted expenditures, as well as transfers. A 6% increase in expenditure is reflected when restricted funds are included. The increase in auxiliaries is primarily attributed to the TCATs returning to in-house bookstore operations, as noted on the revenue slide. Transfers will be discussed on the next slide. Next slide, please. This slide breaks down the transfer activity, or transfer of carryover or unallocated funds from the previous fiscal year. These are non-recurring funds. Transfers show movement of unrestricted, unallocated funds to restricted funds. Normally, these carryovers are budgeted as a transfer to plant funds in October for non-recurring investment in physical plant and equipment. The retirement of indebtedness increase is based primarily on Walter State transferring funds to service revolving credit facility debt for the Greene County expansion project. The unexpended plant increase is primarily due to Volunteer State and Jackson State transferring funds to unexpended plant to fund various capital projects in the pipeline. Next slide, please. This chart shows a reconciliation from unrestricted beginning fund balance to unrestricted ending fund balance. The overall change in unrestricted fund balance is approximately $112.2 million and is attributed to institutions transferring previous year-end unrestricted carryover or unallocated funds to restricted funds, again for future equipment and capital outlay needs and planning. Next slide, please. Moving on to position counts, slide 10 summarizes the total number and type of authorized positions for the entire system. With approval of the budget, the board will be authorizing a total of 7,234 positions for the system. Last October, that number was 7,105. This is an increase of 129 positions. The total number of unrestricted positions this year is 6,587, compared to 6,452 last year, an increase of 135 positions, or 2%. The total number of restricted positions this year is 646, compared to 653 last year, a decrease of 6 positions. Next slide, please. This slide provides a final summary of the October revised budget for the entire TBR system that is before you today for approval. However, before we ask for your approval, we need to include some information related to the locally governed institutions or LGI budgets. As you are aware, these are the 6 public universities that are not part of the UT system. Next slide, please. As you will recall, under the Focus Act, we are required to consider the LGI university budgets, and that consideration is limited to those matters that are necessary to fulfill existing debt covenants, representations, agreements, and obligations under financing agreements entered into with the Tennessee State School Bond Authority. Next slide, please. To that end, university budgets have been received and reviewed in accordance with TBR Policy 4.01.00.05, Consideration of University Budgets, and have been determined to meet debt service coverage requirements, have been found to be mathematically correct and internally consistent. Universities have certified compliance with these required representations, and except as noted above, no judgments have been made regarding university budgets. Madam Chair, university budgets are recommended for approval as being in compliance with the above TBR policy. Additionally, TBR staff recommends approval of the FY25 October revised budget for the TBR system as presented, and I'm happy to answer any further questions, as I know I went through that a little quickly.
Questions, comments for Dr. Fox? Oh, Dr. Gentile.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Alicia. I have a question that's going to follow the comment. I just want to take a moment to thank TBR, and especially Alicia and Valerie, for the amount of support they're giving one of our LGIs right now, Tennessee State University, on helping them navigate their substantial budget issue at this time. Every once in a while, if I need to check in to figure out how things are going, I'll reach out straight to Alicia and she'll give me a good amount of information that's really helpful. But for TBR to go above and beyond in this regard, I just want to take a moment to thank Alicia and her team, and Chancellor Tidings, you as well, for that too. The question was about looking at TSU here. I see a 6.97 coverage. Knowing where their budget concerns are right now, what are you looking at, especially when you're looking at that ratio? Is it unrestricted E&G? Is that what you said? And
It is.
tuition revenue and
Yes.
appropriations?
Yeah,
Okay.
unrestricted E&G revenue.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't include their state appropriation, but it does include their auxiliary revenue as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for your kind words. They have done yeoman's work. Thank you. As is your team, I know. Thank you. Regent Hooper? Did you have a question or a comment?
You have
Any
30
other- I was scared.
No, no, so he looks
You have 30
serious.
minutes. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I yield my 30 minutes.
Thank you. Would you like to make a motion to approve the revised budget?
I make a motion to approve the revised budget.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Regent White. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, this does require a roll call vote, so Madam Secretary.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent DeWitt.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Harrell.
Aye.
Regent Hooper.
Aye.
Regent Kastner.
Aye.
Regent Kelton.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Madam Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Roberts.
Aye.
Regent Spurgeon.
Aye.
Regent Stevenson.
Aye.
Regent Varlin. And Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Dr. Fox. Dr. Torrance, I saw you back there earlier. There he is. We have a building naming request for Motlow State Community College. Oh, I beg your pardon.
I'm too early.
You are. I can't read, obviously, today. I am supposed to call on Chancellor Tidings to present first, so stay right there.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Motlow State Community College recommends naming their McMinnville campus the Jerry W. Cooper Center. President Michael Torrance appointed a naming committee, and the committee unanimously approved this recommendation. Jerry W. Cooper was a former Tennessee State Senator from 1984 to 2007 and a veteran of the Tennessee National Guard. He was an advocate of Motlow State and its mission. He successfully sponsored legislation in the Tennessee General Assembly that garnered more than $21.2 million for the college, which gave rise to Motlow State campuses and programs across the college's service area. First among them was the construction of the Motlow State McMinnville Center located at 225 Cadillac Lane, which opened in 1988. The center brought higher education opportunities to Warren and surrounding counties, educating and training its workforce. He was also instrumental in securing funding in Lincoln County for the Motlow State Fayetteville Center and the Don Sundquist Center for Advanced Technologies. The Motlow State Moore County campus, the original campus, added the Nursing and Technology Building and Library. Senator Cooper successfully secured a grant from the Department of Labor to expand the mechatronics footprint in McMinnville and Smyrna. These funds purchased classroom equipment and enabled the college to hire faculty. During Senator Cooper's tenure as a legislator, significant improvements were realized in infrastructure and roads across the Motlow State service area, all contributing to the educational attainment of local residents and the economic impact of the area by providing jobs. The contributions of Senator Jerry W. Cooper to Motlow State and its service area have already helped thousands of students, and his contributions are poised to continue educating students, serving the workforce needs of business and industry, and supporting economic growth in this region for generations to come. It is my pleasure to bring this recommendation to the board for consideration, and I'd now like to call on Dr. Torrance for his comments.
Thank you, Chancellor. Vice Chancellor Reynolds, I'm known for being early and everywhere, so that's normal. It's okay, I got up here a little bit early. I would like to start with just recognition, Vice Chancellor Reynolds, Regents, Chancellor Tidings, and the at-large audience. It's my honor to stand before you today and speak on behalf of the greater Motlow community, who continues to reap the benefits of the life's work of the late Senator Jerry Wayne Cooper, a champion of higher education, student success, and workforce development. I'm going to take a small point of privilege. I'm going to stay within my 3 minutes, but I got to spend a lot of time with Senator Cooper, often on his front porch and often after 4:30. Chancellor, I want to make sure that you knew that it was after 4:30. And here's some of the things that I took away from him, simply about being. So, be here, be there, be everywhere, be honest, be respectful, be excellent, be humble, be acceptable, be accountable, be fearless, be effective, be efficient, be at ease, be relatable, be clear, be precise, be thoughtful, be creative, be connected, be a name knower, be a brand grower, be a builder, be friendly, but be cautious, be meticulous. And when he would say these things, I would say, that's a lot of being, of which he would chuckle with an adult piece of ice and glass in his hand. Lastly, he would talk about be a finisher. Finish most of what's on your plate when you're in mixed company, but definitely finish what's in your glass. And that's truly being first class. Most importantly, be better today than you were yesterday. So those are some of the lessons that I learned sitting on his front porch. And now we'll make sure we get to the more appropriate rhetoric that is on this page. For a span of 30 years, it was almost impossible to talk about Motlow State without including a sentence or two about Motlow State Senator Jerry Cooper. The warrior, the advocate, the visionary, the stalwart, and the friend who always went the distance for his constituents, his community, and his beloved Motlow Community College. Senator Cooper knew that rural Tennesseans needed opportunities and education to improve their communities and quality of life. These opportunities came through accessible and affordable higher education and workforce training. Hence, Motlow State became a priority in its endeavors as a state senator, business leader, community activist, civic leader, husband, father, and friend. Through his unwavering leadership, Senator Cooper changed not only Warren County, but all of Tennessee. The Upper Cumberland, he changed Motlow's 11 county service area by advocating and garnering more than $21.2 million to bring, expand, and continue supporting higher education into rural communities, such as Lincoln and Moore counties. They say if you build it, they will come. Senator Cooper helped us build it, and they have come. Not only did they come, their children came, their grandchildren came, and now their great-grandchildren fill our classrooms, thirsty for knowledge and skill training. And we always say the best is yet to come. The handprint and spirit of Senator Jerry Wayne Cooper are embedded in Motlow State. Motlow McMinnville, the Cadillac Lane campus, is an example of Senator Cooper's commitment to his community and his continued quest for success. The Motlow Fayetteville campus, which houses the Don Sundquist Center, is another example of Senator Cooper's commitment to rural Tennesseans, higher education, and workforce development. The Motlow Moore County campus, Markham Technology Center, and Clayton Glass Library is steeped in Senator Cooper's commitments to a richer, higher quality of life for rural Tennesseans. The mechatronics programs has the handprint of Senator Jerry Wayne Cooper all over it. It produces high demand, quality workforce that all employers seek. We cannot talk about Senator Cooper without mentioning that he was a walking billboard for Motlow State. He wore a Motlow State polo shirt almost every day. If you didn't know differently, one could have thought he was the president. He was a proud Motlow College Foundation trustee for 24 years and a friend of each president dating back to President Emeritus Dr. Frank Glass, Dr. Art Walker, Dr. Mary Lou Apple, and me. Jerry Cooper embraced the mission of Motlow State, its work, and its people. And in this embrace, he held us accountable for the work. Many have made significant contributions to Motlow State, and among them is Senator Jerry Wayne Cooper. He never sought recognition, fanfare, or praise. His reward was seeing the fruits of his labor. Hence, the reward was Motlow State Community College, its family, wholeheartedly presenting the request to name the McMinnville Center campus after Jerry W. Cooper to honor his life and the legacy of the late state senator. And honestly, I think he may have loved Motlow more than he loved himself. Thank you, ma'am.
Beautifully said. Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments for Dr. Torrance? And I know Dr. Apple is here, another walking billboard, right?
Yes.
For Motlow
And
State, who would reflect the same. I'm quite confident.
And I would like to say that I knew she was coming today in, I'm a sock, bow tie, shoe and belt person. And so today I have on my Mary Lou Apple socks. They're little apples that are green on my socks.
Very good.
Yeah. Touch. Little touch.
That is a very nice touch.
Yeah.
So may we have a motion to approve the building naming for the late, great State Senator Jerry Cooper?
Based on the recommendation from the greater Motlow community, I would make the motion that we move forward with that recommendation.
Thank you, Regent Hooper. Much appreciated.
I will
Regent
second.
Roberts, thank you very much. Any discussion? He is proof that sometimes the best conversations in life can happen on that front porch, right?
Oh, there was some good conversations.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Well said. Secretary Perry, would you call the roll?
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent DeWitt. Aye. Regent George.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Harrell.
Abstain.
Regent Hooper.
Aye.
Regent Kastner.
Aye.
Regent Kelton.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Madam Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Roberts.
Aye.
Regent Spurgeon.
Aye.
Regent Stevenson.
Aye.
Regent Varlin. And Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chancellor, for bringing this forward, and Dr. Torrance back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We now have a couple of bittersweet moments. The first is a resolution of appreciation for our former Regent Mark Gill, who I think is on the phone with us.
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, how are you?
All things considered, I'm doing much better than I deserve.
Excellent, excellent. It's good to hear your voice. We're just sorry you're not with us today.
Well, I've enjoyed sitting in on the session for the last hour or so. It's been good.
I started to ask you if you had any comments about the revised budget, but I was afraid to.
I don't have 30 minutes allotted, so
Exactly, that would be correct. Oh, well, it is my honor to read our resolution of appreciation for your service today. Whereas Regent Mark Gill was appointed by Governor Bill Lee to serve as the at-large Middle Tennessee representative on the Tennessee Board of Regents in 2019, and served with distinction, honor, and integrity. And whereas Regent Gill was raised on a family farm in the Upper Cumberland, where his family has resided since the Revolutionary War, a place he still holds near and dear. And in parentheses, we have all heard the stories, because it is an important spot for him. And whereas Regent Gill earned his bachelor's degree in accounting from Tennessee Technological University, again in parentheses, another personal point of pride for him, and an important one. And whereas he became a Nashville business leader, he spent more than 30 years in the fields of corporate finance and accounting, notably serving with Rogers Capital Group for the bulk of his career. And whereas building on an interest in and understanding of public policy is obtained through his business experience, Regent Gill became active as a citizen in state public policy. Whereas he is a dedicated community leader and has been involved with several Tennessee-based organizations and activities. And whereas his dedicated service on the Tennessee Board of Regents has also included countless hours of support and valuable advice to the system, its institutions, faculty, and students. And whereas during Regent Gill's tenure, he faithfully dedicated time and energy to visit various campuses and serve on the Presidential Search Advisory Committee for the president of TCAT Paris and McKenzie. And whereas Regent Gill participated in board deliberations and provided excellent leadership, wisdom, and knowledge by serving as a member of the Finance and Business Operations Committee, contributing greatly to the governance of the system. And whereas Regent Gill is a passionate advocate with a faithful commitment to the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents system, its students, and Tennessee higher education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents expresses its sincere appreciation to Regent Mark Gill for his years of service rendered and leadership to the Tennessee Board of Regents system. I would like to offer this as a motion to the board, this resolution of appreciation for Mark Gill, and call for a second.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, thank you very much. May I
offer the second?
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. There we go. We've got motion and a second. Thank you all very much. Any discussion?
We miss you, Mark.
Aw, did you hear Danny?
We miss you, Mark.
I miss you all too, very much.
I just have one request, Regent Gill. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, and I would like to ask for your footnotes on Vice Chair Reynolds so I can continue the tradition of harassment and accountability, if you don't mind.
You know, I think I'll auction those off. I think they probably carry some great intrinsic value.
I was going to get them and hide them.
Oh, thanks. That's
But call me. We can cut a deal.
Okay.
That's hilarious. Oh, Chancellor?
And Mark, you know I am going to truly miss you. I tried really hard to talk him out of this decision. I fully understood why you made it, but we are going to miss you. I am going to miss the conversations that we've had and hope that you don't lose my phone number and will continue to call me with those brilliant insights that you have into what's happening, not just across the state, but across this entire country. Y'all would not believe some of the discussions that we had. We didn't even have them here because they were offline about things that were happening in this country. And your insight is just brilliant. And I cannot thank you enough for all that you did to help on this board and to keep us in a lighthearted mood many of the time.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go. Anyone else? All right, my friends, we have a motion and a second to approve this resolution to commemorate to honor the service of our friend, Regent Mark Gill. This will require a roll call vote.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent DeWitt.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Harrell.
Aye.
Regent Hooper.
Aye.
Regent Kastner.
Absolutely. Aye.
Regent Kelton.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Madam Chair Reynolds.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Roberts.
Aye.
Regent Spurgeon.
Aye.
Regent Stevenson.
Aye.
Regent Barlin,
I guess.
and Regent White.
I'll make it unanimous. Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Regent Gill, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you all, and especially to you, Chair Reynolds, for your kind, exceedingly kind and exceedingly undeserved comments. I appreciate very much. I would like to get a copy of that thing. My wife will not believe it. So anyway, thank you all for this. Sorry I couldn't be there, but as I told Mariah, I had an operation and I still can't wear my shoes yet, and I didn't think you all would like me there barefoot, so I decided to do it by phone. I joined the Board of Regents in the summer of 2019. At that time, TBR was emerging from an extensive and far-reaching reorganization. It was also facing the beginning of a changing market, and it was about to run headlong into the COVID-19 pandemic. In my first year, it appeared to me that the institution had considerable challenges. However, subsequent years led me to understand that my concerns were unfounded because the Board of Regents had a secret weapon, a stellar and effective executive team. Renowned business and management philosopher Peter F. Drucker defines an executive as a knowledge worker that is responsible for a contribution that materially affects the organization. Quoting Berker, an effective executive has the ability to get the right things done. What a simple and yet profound description, or always has been for me. To me, the discussion of TBR executives starts with two people, Chancellor Flora Tidings and Vice Chair Emily Reynolds. I don't have 30 minutes, so there's no need to try and discuss all their incredible judgment or leadership and dedication, but I would like to take a few minutes and look at one of their most far-reaching examples of contribution. Most experts agree that an organization's success is dependent on finding and keeping good people. I believe Flora Tidings has mastered that, and Emily Reynolds has counseled and advised on many of the selections. In the last 5 years, Flora and Emily have shepherded the hiring of 21 TBR presidents. All were subject to a selection process seeking to hire the best candidate. The process was thorough, serious, and totally in search of effective executives, such as the people participating in this board meeting today. I believe Chancellor Tidings and Vice Chair Reynolds' accomplishments in team building speaks for itself. For example, after visiting TCAT Stanton, was it not apparent that Dick Tracy had the ability to get the right things done? Or how about Dr. Jackson's innovative partnership with Metro Nashville Schools? Or Russ Deaton's groundbreaking analysis on strategic ways to encourage student enrollment and program completion? Or my favorite, President Wise's Motorsports Experimental Learning Program at Pellissippi. Look around you. I believe TBR's leadership has grown a culture of effective executives with the ability to get things done for its students. There are 2 points I'd like to leave you with. First, my experience is that life presents very few opportunities to work with and to work for an organization that recruits and supports the quality of professionals that exist at TBR. I encourage you to embrace the uniqueness of TBR with its current leadership and team, and to absorb all that TBR has to offer you and your career and the students you serve. Second, I spent 5 years associated with TBR, sipping Sundrop and observing and enjoying the efforts of excellence put forth by the TBR team. It was fun, and I appreciate the opportunity very much. Thank you, Merry Christmas, and may God continue to bless this organization and its people and its students.
That was beautifully said. I don't know if you're watching the live stream, Regent Gill, but you have a standing ovation in this room. All of us are so grateful to you, and thank you for your kind comments. I won't say that I'm deserving, but Chancellor and the team certainly are, and we can't thank you enough. Dr. Tidings, anything?
The only thing I'm gonna close with is I had no idea what Sundrop was until I met Mark Gill. So,
Regent Powers? Aw. Regent Powers?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just wanted to add, and when Mark George was speaking, I wanted to say something, but this seems more appropriate after hearing this beautiful speech he just gave. I love how he just spun it around and shined the light on everyone else and took the light away from him. That's just the way his heart is, and I have come to really love and adore him, and I appreciate him very much, and will miss him.
Beautifully said. So,
Thank you,
Regent
Michelle.
Gill, here's the deal. We're going to give you a copy of the resolution for you to show your wife. If you, in turn, will share with us a copy of those beautiful remarks for our archives here at TBR.
I'll agree with that on one requirement, that you all will have somebody go through it for misspelled words and poor language before you post it up on the wall.
You got that. Well, Mariah's a perfectionist. You got it. Thank you, sir, so very much. And here's the deal. You're not here today, obviously, for us to give you our little gift, our TBR commemorative paperweight. However, I know where you live, and we're in the same town. So you and I, after the first of the year, are going to spend a little time together. Is that a deal?
That sounds wonderful. I will look forward to it very much so, and to running into all of you and maintaining the relationship that was so much fun to build over the last 5 years. Godspeed to all of you.
Godspeed, and we'll hope to see you at the SOAR Awards in February.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark. Unbelievable.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Take good care.
Bye-bye.
And now, we'd like to honor our friend and former regent and former president and all things TBR, Mary Lou Apple. And with that, I will call on Regent Nisha Powers.
Thank you, Vice Chair
Hold on
Reynolds.
one sec. Mary Lou, could you make your way to the front? Yes, indeed. There she is. Thank you. Sorry, Regent Powers.
No problem at all. Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds. I've been dreading and looking forward to this all at the same time, mixed emotions. But with that, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to present a resolution of appreciation for the service of Regent Mary Lou Apple to the Tennessee Board of Regents. I'm going to try not to cry. Whereas Regent Mary Lou Apple was appointed on October 19th, 2015, by Governor Bill Haslam to serve as the 6th Congressional District Representative on the Tennessee Board of Regents. She was reappointed by Governor Haslam in 2018 and served with distinction, honor, and integrity. And whereas Regent Apple holds a doctorate in education from East Tennessee State University, as well as a Master's of Science degree and a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Go Vols. And whereas Regent Apple has had a remarkable tenure with the Tennessee Board of Regents, prior to serving as a regent, she had 37 years of service with Walter State Community College as an associate professor of nursing, dean, and eventually vice president for academic affairs. In 2006, she was appointed president of Motlow State Community College, where she served for 9 years. And whereas during her presidency at Motlow State, she organized the Presidential Student Leadership Institute, initiated the Adult College Express, launched the Mechatronics program, founded the Motlow Ladies Philanthropic Society, and advocated for funding for new facilities at the McMinnville and Smyrna centers. And whereas the board bestowed Regent Apple with the honorary status of President Emerita of Motlow State in 2015, and whereas her passion for her local community has enabled her to provide leadership through her service with many organizations, including her service on the Motlow State Foundation Board of Trustees, and whereas during her tenure, she also served as chair of the Presidential Search Advisory Committee for Volunteer State, TCAP Murfreesboro, and TCAT Shelbyville, and as a member of the search committee for the TBR Chancellor and several other presidential positions. And whereas Regent Apple dedicated service on the Board of Regents has also included countless hours of support and valuable advice to the system, its institutions, faculty, and students, including speaking at commencement ceremonies, convocations, groundbreakings, building dedications, and other celebrations. And whereas she participated in board deliberations and contributed greatly to the governance of the system by serving as chair of the Academic Policies and Programs and Student Life Committee since 2020, and as former chair of the Workforce Development Committee. And whereas Regent Apple has a sincere interest in the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents system and Tennessee higher education. And now therefore be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents expresses its sincere appreciation to Regent Mary Lou Apple for her years of service rendered and leadership to the Tennessee Board of Regents. And Vice Chair, before I hand the floor back to you, a few personal comments. And in addition to all the aforementioned professional accomplishments, I have come to know this amazing woman as Mary Lou, friend, wise counselor, prayer warrior, and a person of deep faith who treasures her family. I was so disappointed that she was stepping down from the TBR and will miss our time together, but am so grateful for the season I was given with Mary Lou. Thank you.
Beautifully said, as always. Thank you. Before we vote to affirm this resolution, there is a supplemental piece of business that Brian has allowed us to consider at the same time. And this was referenced in the resolution. When Mary Lou was appointed to this board in 2015, she had concluded her tenure at Motlow State as its president. She was granted that honorary president emeritus status by this body. But when our friend Governor Haslam asked her to serve on the board, in keeping with good governance, she resigned that position as president emeritus, which, as we know, carries no financial reward in her case, but does allow certain campus privileges, shall we say. I would propose that in addition to affirming this resolution, we also reinstate her honorary president emeritus status with today's action. So with that, I come back to you, Regent Powers, if you would like to offer the motion to approve the resolution and the honorary president emeritus status for Dr. Apple.
With great delight, I make that motion.
Thank you. May we have a second? Thank you, Regent Varlin, for that second. Any further discussion, comments? Chancellor?
I'm going to try to talk and not cry. Mary Lou, and I don't think I've actually even shared this with her, back in 2015, when I was looking at going to apply for the job at Chattanooga State as president, one of the things I started doing was going online and looking at everything I could find about the Tennessee Board of Regents. And one of the first videos I found was of presidents at a meeting with the governor at the Capitol, and the person speaking was Mary Lou Apple on behalf of all the presidents at that time. And I remember watching that video and thinking, oh, I like her. I want to go there and work with her. So it was really part of what drove me to say that was a good place to go. And little did I know that a year and a half later, she'd be sitting on a committee that would put me into this position. You've become a very close friend. And I cannot say enough about all that you've done to help. So I will not. Thank you for everything. All that you've done for TBR, but all that you've done for me personally. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Regent Varlin?
Mary Lou, we've been seatmates for a while here, but it has just been such a distinct pleasure to get to know you, especially coming from, literally the presidential positions and the things you have done in the colleges, to really get to know somebody who has had all that experience and is bringing it to the board. Is just amazing how much we were able to learn from you and from your perspective. and we thank you for that. But I also thank you for all the good times, all the special conversations, and everything that makes you Mary Lou.
You are the most courageous person I know, and we have seen that courage in action here over the past few weeks. You amaze us each and every day, and I think professionally speaking, not only did you have this extraordinary run of leadership across the Board of Regents system, but what a credit that in the wake of the transition of this board and of the system, that the governor recognized your talent and wanted you to be a part of that transition and provide leadership over these past, 8+ years. That's an honor that so few people receive, and just an indication that your continued knowledge and energy and understanding of the system and our colleges and our team was critical to us, and indeed it has been for all these years. So we bid you farewell today, but not for a lifetime by any stretch of the imagination, because we want you to remain a part of, this is your family, and we want you to remain a part of TBR. I hope at the end of the day, you just know not only how much we admire you, but how much we love you. Thank you. Before I turn the floor over to you, I see Mariah turning on that microphone. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's make this official by calling the roll.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent DeWitt.
Especially grateful as the District 6 rep now. I regret the chance or not having the chance to work with you, but very gratefully, yes.
Oh, sweet.
Regent George.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Regent Harrell.
Aye.
Regent Hooper.
Aye.
Regent Kastner.
Aye.
Regent Kelton.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Madam Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Roberts.
Aye.
Regent Spurgeon.
Aye.
Regent Stevenson.
Aye.
Regent Barlin.
Aye.
And Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, Mary Lou, the floor is about to be yours, but Dr. Tidings and I are coming your way here. You were what for the paper? That's, you don't have to wait for the paperweight any longer. It is all yours to grant. Thank you so much. Talk to us.
It's hard to follow Mark Gill. I didn't think I would be saying that, but Mark did an outstanding job. I wish he was here. Well, it's hard if you've been counting up the years, Nisha, that you so kindly gave everybody, and you're wondering, how old is she? I have a birthday coming up Saturday, and I'll be 70. So for 47 years at that time, I've been here. It's more than my family. Just a few things about why do you stay in a place for 40+ years. And there's just some basic principles that it led me to want to be here that long. One of them is that I truly believe that education gives us options and opportunity. I think when you have an education, the world opens up to you and you get to make some choices in your life. I believe that the community college and the technical colleges really provide the best opportunity for underserved and underprepared people. And we need to care about every citizen that we have. And I believe this system does that. And I love to see people learn because it builds confidence. And there's nothing better than watching your students achieve, succeed, graduate, and you see them later in the profession. That is so satisfying, and it leads you to want to do more. What's been some of the outcomes? I think it's resonated in this meeting today. Relationships. Relationships has been the most gratifying and wonderful outcomes of these years. One with the students, I loved the students. I loved working with the students. And like Scott Cook back here, it was hard. I had to drag him out of the school, out of the classroom into administration because it's hard to give up being with students. Second, it was about dealing with and being in successful teams. And I found that throughout my tenure when I had the team in the health programs and then a team of administrators in the academics and the vice presidents. And then I found a tremendous resource of the team of presidents that's sitting here behind me that I had the honor of serving with. And then to get to top it off, the cherry on top, to get to work with every one of you. And those relationships are things I'll never forget. It's almost so made me a better person because I have known you. Then, for those who are not here, I have to say a couple of words because they taught me invaluable lessons, and I hope some way this gets back to them. Greg Duckett, Tom Grissom, David Gregory, and Joey Hatch. Just to name a few, but off the top of my head, I had to say their names because I learned so much from this board and from the people here. And I think Mark said it very well when he said, this is the best board I've ever been on. And I think it gets better. And I do think, Flora and Emily, it has so much to do with you. But it also has to do with choices that people make to get you here was, I think, because you're selfless. Because that's what you have to be on a board like this. And you have to really think about everyone else and not yourself. And I think all of you do that beautifully. So in closing, first I need to say, and Nisha, I didn't think I'd get through without crying, but thank you so much for the love, support, notes, etc. that you have given me in the past 5 weeks. My world changed upside down. And it's my faith that's got me here, but also the love from each one of you. Also, I want to say to the group sitting behind me, so much of the time, the successes of everything we do comes from the people that aren't up here front and center. This team that I got to work with back here in academic affairs and student affairs, and Russ and Heidi and Jothany and everybody behind them, wonderful. And the talent that you have assembled here, Chancellor Tidings, outstanding. And I think that makes this a stronger board because of who's sitting back here. Life truly is short. I've learned that more than once. Date your spouse often. Love on your family. And keep the reason for the season in your heart year round. You have enriched my life, and I thank you for that.
You have enriched our lives. And again, just like Regent Gill, you have been very humble. But at the end of the day, my friend, every team needs a leader. And you are the definition of leader. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Regent-
I couldn't resist. I feel so inadequate compared to 47 years. But just one, I couldn't help myself. Is Mark still on?
Regent Gill, are you with us?
Okay.
I think
But anyhow, you are much sweeter than Mark. And I would, yeah, no. I couldn't believe his comments were, is it the same Mark that was sitting over here? I mean, he always asked pointed questions and made pointed comments, and it was far from it in his remarks. But I would much rather have a copy of your remarks than Mark's to use later.
That's funny. He would have gotten a kick out of that, and Eddie's still been on the phone. That's right. So, and as you enter your 70th year, I know the birthday may be a little bittersweet this year, but everybody's sending thoughts and prayers and best wishes your way. Thank you for joining us today, and for your military service and your service to this great state of Tennessee. So, we love you. So we will have the privilege as a board to gather again in February at the system office. Our meeting will be in conjunction with all of our SOAR activities, which we've heard referenced today, and that's at the Grand Hyatt downtown. And Mariah and Kate will continue to be in touch on all of those details as we move forward. We also need to remind you to complete our annual disclosure form that was sent to us electronically December 2nd from Kate, and that is due back no later than January 31. But if you could knock it out here in the next few days, that would be ideal, those of you who might not have completed it. If you have any questions about what to or what not to report, obviously Brian is a phone call or an email away. Chancellor, your closing comments?
Yes, thank you. And I first of all want to start out by thanking the TBR team for pulling the meeting together, but particularly for the lunch that we are about to go up and enjoy. Reminding all the board members that we do have a holiday luncheon on the second floor. When you get off the elevators, there'll be somebody there to direct you to it. Thank you again for everything that you do every day for our students. May everybody have a very blessed Christmas season. Thank you.
And just so everybody knows, when we convene in February, Mariah is going to be busy with a newborn. Little Grace is getting a baby sister here soon. So thank you for getting us to today, through today. We need you to stay healthy and happy. And we look forward to hearing more in the coming weeks. But we may not see Mariah until on or around the 1st of April. So Godspeed. To her credit, and you've noticed that Kate's been on a lot of our communications, Kate Walker has attached herself at the hip, so to speak, to Mariah, and she'll be helping to fill in. And Kate, we are so grateful that you're willing to fill this gap, and we know this is a seamless time for all of us. And then, of course, Mary Ann does such a tremendous job as well. But congratulations again. We will miss you, but we know you'll be in touch, and we want photos. Absolutely want photos. Does anyone have any further announcements today? Well, hearing none, as the Chancellor said, let's go have a little lunch and some time together. Thank you to this remarkable team and everybody that makes this system run so well. Most of all, a safe and a very happy holiday season. Thank you all. We are adjourned.